There we go.
Pretty dope.
Now we're live, so you don't hear yourself,
Uh-uh.
but you got it. And so for those of you who don't know this guy that's sitting across from me, this is one of my best friends in the world from fourth grade. He was in
Four.
fifth grade.
Was it fourth?
It was fourth.
You were. I thought I was in fourth. You were in third.
No, you
No,
were in
I thought your
fifth.
brother was in fifth.
No, we
no?
came to Lompoc in fourth grade.
Right.
So you were in fifth. You lived in the rich place on base. You remember where that was?
Where the enlisted folks live.
Yeah. That was a trailer park, man.
Oh, that was
You
later
li-
though. When
yeah.
I
You were on Jacaranda.
yeah.
Okay.
That was
That was
the,
rich.
The blue collar workers.
That was rich, and then you went even richer, where we decorated the water tower.
The tower, yeah.
Yeah.
We didn't get to live where Dale lived.
Dale was rich.
Yeah, dude.
Dale tries to act like he wasn't rich because he had. I said he was rich because he had a Pac-Man machine.
I remember that.
If you have a Pac-Man machine and a pinball machine in your house,
I just remember the first day he showed up and remember, didn't he have on that Black Bulls like starter jacket?
I think him and Demetrius got it for Sadie Hawkins. I'm just joking.
That's awesome. That's pretty
We
smart.
better not say that name like 3 times. Just show up. Just show
He'll
up.
come out of the
I know.
window.
But he was Dale was the original, like when we talk about Jordan and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah. He had the original threes.
Yeah.
88, 89 threes.
Oh, yeah.
The red and white ones.
But the cool thing for me now is like I show Maddox. I show Maddox like all the sneakerhead stuff and all those things. And I think back to you. How many pairs of shoes you have right now?
Now, I got
Did you get rid of them?
I purged a lot.
What'd you do?
I got rid of them.
Where'd you sell them?
I didn't-
StockX?
No.
You just got rid of
I
them?
got rid of them.
To the Goodwill.
No, I kept a lot of the vintage type ones.
You
I
did.
probably got 45 pairs right now.
That's all.
That's it.
Where did you get rid of them to?
The old stuff, like I would wear a lot, still,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
they
yeah.
just got raggedy, so
Okay,
I got
alright.
rid of them. But I kept a lot of. I have a lot
Because
of,
you used to travel with like 15 boxes of shoes
still
and
do.
show up to
I don't-
people's house. This is what Dale and I were just talking about.
right.
We were just talking about it where you would show up and then, you would unpack, and most people unpack their clothes, but you would unpack
Unpack shoes.
your shoes. How did you know at the beginning?
I didn't know. I just wanted to match my shoes. I always felt, when we were young, we didn't have a lot of money.
Yeah.
We always wanted to have nice shoes, though. You could tell if a person got nice shoes, he got his game together.
Yeah.
I just always had, like, just on this trip here, I got these and I got a pair of white ones just like them in my bag. And I just packed tight.
Did you learn it in the military, like the military part?
I mean, part of that was, discipline,
Okay.
learning that stuff, but
And also too, going in the military, you went in the military
Mhm.
and you had instant family. You had like top ramen family, meaning that you just added hot water and it just turned into a family like that.
I did.
So you didn't go in like single GI in the barracks buying a motorcycle.
No. I
Yeah.
had Nicholas at
Yes.
the time. Yeah, that was quick. Instant family, bro.
Very instant.
And you can't say enough about how good he's.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I got 3 beautiful grandbabies.
I can't believe it that you have grandbabies.
He's been with UPS now 13 years,
Are
12
you
years.
joking?
Yeah, he's doing really well.
He is awesome, man.
Yeah, I hope one day he moves closer. We'll see.
Is he still
He's in
Kingman?
Arizona, Kingman.
Is he?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, right
all right.
there where the Hoover Dam, Laughlin area.
Okay.
Yeah, Bullhead City, that area.
What part for you to like, do you try and explain to your friends now in Texas the friendships that you have?
Oh, they're envy of what we have.
Okay.
My kids really envy.
Yeah.
And I hope one day, it's gonna happen where I think we all need to come together.
Yeah.
Kids and all. Wherever that takes place, maybe
Yeah.
we go to Pike's Water out there.
That would be
I think a
great.
great spot.
If he
somewhere
hears
big
when he hears this, he's going to be like, "I've been trying to
I
tell
know,
you,
and he'll tell us,
and I haven't been.
yeah,
I
no.
haven't taken the time."
Yeah, he'll
Yeah.
start
Yeah.
throwing arrows at us. No, just kidding, Andy. Love you, buddy. No, I mean something where we have room to spread out and do our things,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
hang out. I think that'd be great. I hate that I missed the one a couple weeks ago. It's always off for me because
Yeah.
I travel so much.
Well, you're on the road a ton. How often are you on the road?
A lot, man. 2 or 3 times a month at
Good
least.
Lord.
So I leave here and I'll go back home. Jack's got a tournament this weekend, and
Yeah.
then I'll head to Colorado for a week.
So three little ones, or four, you got
I
four
got
because
4. Yeah,
Nicholas.
Nicholas, I
Nicholas,
got 3.
I'm saying three little ones because Nicholas is 75.
He is
You know what I mean?
75.
Yeah. You're
He's
76.
he's
You had him
calling
at like
Social
6
Security.
months. Yeah.
Nah, Nicholas, and then we have the grandbabies, of course, and his
Okay.
wife, and then Savannah, Brooklyn, and Jackson.
Yeah.
Sarah and I, we've been together
Are
26
you
years now.
joking?
Yeah,
Congratulations, man.
married 21.
So list off the ages because Jack is in 7th grade.
So Nicholas is 30. Savannah is 19. Brooklyn's 18. She just turned 18, and Jack is 13.
You guys didn't waste any time between the two of those.
No,
No.
actually, I wish it was closer to make college a whole lot easier for
Yeah.
us. Because you got one at LSU, we got one get ready to go to Louisiana Tech, and then
Yeah.
it's me, Sarah, and Jack, and the dogs. You
Okay.
know? So we'll see what happens, man.
How is it? Rob and I were just talking about college, and
Mm-hmm.
I was on my dog walk the other day, and one of the moms was talking about college and
Mhm.
college tuition, and it's wild because can you imagine if our parents would have had to pay what we're gonna pay for? Well, you're already paying.
I I hate putting that business out there.
Yeah.
I don't pay for college.
Uh huh.
My kids don't pay tuition because I did 22 years in the military.
It's awesome,
So my kids will never pay for undergrad tuition.
dude. That's so gangster.
So it helps out tremendously.
Yeah.
You know,
22 years in the military, man. I
um,
remember when you were going. I remember when you were thinking about going in.
do you remember? Have you heard this story?
No.
You know who was supposed to go?
Which story? You didn't even preface it.
I know I didn't. Sorry.
That was very. Can you be more vague?
Right. Well, you talked about going into the military, and it just brought up because we talked about Dale so much.
Yeah.
Dale was coming in with me. He was, at the time you had, I forgot the program. You had a
It's like
partner,
the buddy program or
program,
something like that. Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
Dale was with me.
What?
Dale went through all the steps, all the way up to, hey, the bus is coming to pick us up
No.
at Winchell's Donuts
Are you
in
joking?
Lompoc, and he didn't show up. And I went to MEPS in Compton, stayed at the Cockatoo Inn by myself.
Really?
Yeah, he was
I didn't
supposed.
know that.
He didn't show up. He was supposed to be there with me, and you tell him to this day, or he'll tell you to this day, he regrets it to this day. He wish he would have went in.
Wow.
You know,
That's wild, man.
yeah. And
Was
then,
it scary going in at that time? Because I always thought I was going in because our dad's like, growing up on Vandenberg Air Force Base, this is, I think, the most magical place in the world to grow up.
it was amazing for us as kids.
Why was it for you?
I think the comfortability, the safeness, the us.
Yeah.
I think to this day, man, we're 50 years old. We've been doing this for 35 plus years. And
More? I mean, we're talking
Yeah.
we're talking over 40 years.
yeah, almost 40. Yeah,
You know what I mean?
Right at 40
I
years.
was 9 years old when I met you.
And even though, like for me, for instance, I don't get to see you guys as much as I'd like to, when we come back, it's like we never
Oh my
stopped.
gosh.
You know what I mean? I can imagine what it was like a couple weeks ago.
Good Lord.
You know,
You can't be sensitive.
no, you can't be salty.
Is
you
there-
got to take it.
is
You
there-
got to take your whippings and just roll on.
How'd you explain that to your wife? Because I remember with my wife at very first. Now Brooklyn is really cool. You know her, and she's amazing. But she was like, "What?" I mean, her and her friends give each other a hard time, but there's levels.
Mhm.
And with our friends, like literally, if you were missing a leg, someone was saying something about it
Oh yeah,
immediately.
and
Now,
they still be saying something about it.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, they would make fun of your mom, like, I mean, but not in a vicious way.
It's just how we did each other, man. It was a way of life. It was since day one.
Was it hard for you to transition into new friends where,
Very,
like,
very.
when you had a new friend and you were, because we were so comfortable at giving someone the business, and then you meet a new friend and you go to give them the business, and they're like, I don't,
And their humor is so dry.
Yeah.
They're like, the first thing you do is you try to compare them to your friends back home. They're like, I don't think we're gonna work out. You got to learn how to take it.
Yeah.
That was a big thing with us. We have thick skin.
how about Sarah adjusting to it? Was there any adjustment?
Sarah is she from day one. I think you were living in Vegas at the time.
Yeah.
And I forgot who said it. It might have been Rob. He said, "Hey, she was there with us. I think I was dating Sarah at the time. Maybe I can't
Okay.
remember. Anyway, it was your house in Vegas. Had the basketball court in the backyard,
Yeah, smart idea.
right?
Really brilliant. It was super responsible.
right? And Rob or somebody said something. I think it was Rob, and said, "Hey, girls upstairs hanging out." And Sarah goes, I'm not hanging out with girls. You know,
Yeah,
she's just was like that. You know, I'm hanging out with the fellas.
yeah,
You know, she's a road dog, man.
yeah,
She's you know, she's my best friend.
yeah.
You know, and she's gonna go with me wherever I go.
26 years.
26 years we've been together.
It's
Yeah.
amazing. Tell me about the bone broth stuff because this blew my mind. I saw now is do you contribute all of this to because you look phenomenal.
Thanks.
Like you look really, really, really good. Um, you know, do you contribute that to just bone broth or Ozempic and bone broth?
All
I'm
of
just
just Ozempic, just Manjaro, uh, like Barkley would say, right? No, it was a big help. I told you earlier when I first got here, I quit drinking. I thought I was a heavy
Yeah.
drinker, but I just
What
took
did you drink? What was your drink of
beer,
choice?
just beer.
Just beer. Okay.
Yeah, and it
You
was a,
drink Zima?
all the time. No,
Yeah.
no, not so much. No,
Natty Light.
right.
Were you doing Michelob Ultra? Because
the-
that's what
Will.
Will is drinking that all the
I
time.
saw that.
That does not make any sense to me.
You should just drink water.
Yeah, well, you see Will, and Will's a guy's guy,
Right.
but he's drinking a Michelob Ultra in that skinny can. It didn't make any sense to me.
I just see Will like drinking like cognac or something, man.
Oh yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, no.
I would think maybe a little bit more substance to the beer. Is it just watery? Is that what Ultra? I don't drink beer, so
It's just to me it is. It's not. It doesn't taste like a
what'd you
beer.
drink?
It would. I liked. What did I like to? I was a Bud Light guy at the time.
Okay. Yeah, yeah.
I guess it didn't matter wherever I was. You know, I drank. You know, being overseas so much,
Yeah,
you like good beer over there because their beer is just smooth and that's where a lot of beer is from. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Um, yeah, I was never the type to get up on a Tuesday and I need a beer. It was a social thing for me, but I
yeah.
just cut it out, man. You know, I
Just stop drinking.
I've had one or two occasionally, but it's
Okay.
not like how I used to. You know, we'd go watch football games a lot.
Yeah.
And it wasn't for me on a Saturday to go. I can throw back 12 to 14 beers and not thinking, blink an eye.
Yeah.
It just
So you stopped drinking,
stop drinking.
and then you got this bone broth thing. Like you started talking about it a little bit.
Right. So my wife,
Yeah.
we got with I told you earlier,
Dottie Kelly.
with Dottie. Dottie put us on the map. With
Shout out
this
to Dottie.
Big Dottie Kelly. Yeah. Her and her
No,
husband.
there's nothing big about Dottie Kelly.
No, she's about
No,
that
she-
tall.
yeah, she-
she can pose for trophies still. She's still tiny. Love her. She's
Yeah.
great, man. Her and her cousin, her husband, Chris. He's they put this together and started this bone broth business. And again, like I said earlier, I know a little bit enough to be dangerous. Sarah's. We'll get her on the cast
Yeah.
and let her do her thing and spill it. But it's if you read about it, man, it's just the stuff, the nutrients, the ingredients it provides for people.
Yeah.
From collagen to to iron in your bones.
Did you notice a difference in energy level for you?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah?
Yeah. I use it a lot as a supplement because I started the intermittent fasting. I would
Okay.
eat dinner early, and I say early, 4 or 5 o'clock,
Yeah.
and I probably wouldn't eat food again. If I got hungry in the next morning, I'd have some broth
Okay.
to kind of hit that fast and supplement the fast.
Yeah.
And you can use that broth as that so it doesn't disrupt that whole
Ah.
intermittent fasting, right?
Okay.
So I usually wouldn't eat lunch until, noon, 1 o'clock. So I'd be fasting for 16, 17 hours.
Oh wow.
And that's what I've kind of continued to do,
Okay.
but it just becomes a habit. And then I'm doing exercise and I need to lift more, and get some muscle mass on me, but dude, I was fat. I was a tub of peanut butter. I was pushing 3 bills.
Really?
Yeah, man. I was Nate Newton, Nate Newton big. It was big. It was the big time.
So when we talk about these things, like when you talk about like intermittent fasting, and I think of that, and it's like, oh wow, okay, cool, bone broth. Can you imagine us having a conversation with our parents back in the day
They would've loved
about
you.
those
Yeah,
things?
yeah.
So how have you been able to take the old school? Because we were raised old school, right? Your dad was, I mean, your
Still
dad
old
was,
school.
yeah, your dad is Clint Eastwood.
Right.
So he traveled with an orangutan and punched people out and stuff like that.
That's a good analogy.
any which way but loose. Big Al, man.
Yeah.
I mean, you didn't want to mess there.
Shout out.
So big shout. I'm going to shout out because I don't want him to come here and just whoop my tail. But how about the fact of you were raised old school, but now you have kids.
Mhm.
Are you raising them old school? Are you mixing the two together? And
Um,
when does it go wrong?
I think it was good because my kids grew up in the South, right?
Okay.
So when you say old school, I really appreciate the mannerisms they picked up.
Like what?
Well, my kids don't go anywhere. If they're standing here with us, it'd be yes sir and no sir.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am, and no, ma'am. And I
Yeah.
appreciate that, and they show the respect to those adults around them,
Yeah.
and the teachers who are around them. I think it shows who they are
Yeah.
and kind of the environment that we've, that they've been brought up in.
Yeah.
Because when we go back home to Louisiana and stuff like that, that's how it is.
Yeah.
There's no other way. But that old school part of it, we bring a lot of old school stuff to it. It's a different day and age. With how the kids are now. Especially with phones and not. So
Yeah.
sometimes it's tough. It's a hurdle. To try to pull them away, but my girls have been really good. Jack is, keeping him focused on other things. He's like us. He goes home and he wants to play 2K and he wants to play Madden. That's what he does. That's
Yeah.
what we did.
Yeah.
And
Well, talk about that too, because this was the thing that a lot of people like stay off the devices. We were on devices, but we were just on some
we were on a couple of
Nintendo.
games, right? We weren't with the headset on talking to so and so in China playing, guns and shooting people out. What is it, Call of Duty or whatever?
Yeah, we were playing Duck Hunt though.
Yeah, yeah.
That was violent. We were
Because
taking them ducks out.
because it came with the game.
Yeah.
We didn't have to go out and buy it. You know what I mean?
You remember when it was Duck Hunt and Mario Brothers
Yeah, it was
together?
like
A dual cassette?
Yeah. So, I think just disciplining that, not in trouble, but just keeping him away from it at times,
Yeah.
where he's not up till midnight playing this stuff.
Uh-huh.
But I give him time to do that. But again, he's so into sports,
Yeah.
and and I think we called the other day. I was picking him up from training, so he tries to stay in that. He's in the gym, and lifting.
Yeah.
We didn't have that. People
No.
weren't telling us that in 7th grade.
No.
Hey man, I'm gonna go lift. No, probably not. And he's like, Dad, I'm gonna go train. Okay, let's go. I'm gonna stop, drop, and do what I got to do to take
Yeah.
him. And we didn't have that. That culture wasn't there for us.
But what about the fact of, I mean, out of Lompoc, we had a lot of professional athletes come out of
yeah.
without specialized training.
Because a lot of those, and Dale and I have actually talked about this a few times when it comes to, because we'd clown Cabrillo the way it's came not lately, but lately they've been doing pretty well. But
Yeah.
even I'd say the last 10 to 20 years prior, they're awful.
Yeah.
Well, you got to remember too, when we grew up, Cabrillo had kind of their own NIL recruiting coming out of the base
That's true.
because there wasn't as many contractors at Vandenberg.
I
You got to
didn't
think of
realize
the Donald Lindsays, the Donald Willises, the
Yeah.
the Reggie Etheridges
that. Uh-huh.
of the world, your brother of the world. What brought all those people to Vandenberg? The base.
Yeah.
The Cabrillo, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
was the base. And the older we got, it got kind of away from that because a lot of the base went contract.
Got it.
So you weren't seeing a lot of those families PCSing in. I'm sure I've missed a lot of people.
Yeah.
I don't even know what brought Napoleon to Lompoc.
I don't know. I think he was native. Native to Lompoc. I
Right.
think. I
Right.
mean, I have no
And
idea.
I don't know,
but-
and I don't know that, but there
But
was
it's amazing it was
the Ricky Harrises.
Good Lord.
You
But I
know,
mean, it was such a like Eric Strickland.
Eric Strickland.
Eric
I
Strickland.
saw him the other day at the
Oh,
airport.
man. I was just talking to him the other day because I called, Maddox said, I want to play football.
Mhm.
And if I play football, I can't play basketball. And I said, no, let me call Uncle Eric. And so I called up Eric,
Mhm.
Uncle Eric. And I said, Uncle Eric, were you drafted in the major leagues? He said, yes.
Yep.
I said, were you drafted in the NFL? He said, yes.
Yep.
I said, were you drafted in the NBA? He said, no, I went in as a free agent.
Yep. And played for 7 or 8 teams
Yeah.
for like 12 years.
And the only reason why he didn't go to the other two sports is because of the collective bargaining agreement.
Yep.
That was the only reason.
Yep.
And he told Maddox that, and he said, it's good for you at a young age to play all different sports
Mhm.
because it creates a different type of muscle and reaction time.
Mhm.
What's your view on that as far as, because nowadays, especially here in I don't know if it's that way in Texas, but it's so specialized.
It is, and Texas is a great example of kids, especially at the ISD that we play in, the school district we play in.
Yeah.
We live in Aledo, Texas, and it is known, quote unquote, as Title Town. There's a movie on Netflix about our
Really?
town and football, and football is a way of life. People say it in Texas, that's all there is football and, God and everything else. And,
Yeah.
and football is the way of life. Jack's been playing tackle football, full tackle since 1st grade with pads
Wow.
on and helmet. It's just,
Yeah.
and where we live, it's a system.
Yeah.
And it's the Aledo youth, and it goes to Aledo Middle School and then Aledo High School.
Yeah.
But it's all part of the system. And those coaches, parents, and training and all,
Wow.
they're all part of the process. you
How
know.
have you seen parents change? Because I mean, our parents sometimes, I don't know that your parents were at every game,
Mhm.
but there was times where my parents weren't at a basketball game, a
Mhm.
lot of them,
Mhm.
just because they were working, or the fact that we only had one car and we lived 40 miles away from
That
our
and a
high
lot,
school.
yeah, a lot of times our parents work 2 and 3
Yeah,
jobs.
you couldn't be there. Talk. What about the difference in parents now
Mhm.
as opposed to?
A lot. I'm not a big fan of the, quote unquote helicopter parenting that
Yeah,
you see at games a lot.
yeah,
Let the kids play. They're gonna if they want it, they're gonna have to want it themselves. It's kind of like I was talking earlier when Jack comes to me and says, "Hey, Dad, I want to go work out and train." Well, I'm gonna drop what I'm doing because he wants to go do that.
yeah,
You shouldn't have to tell your kids to want to go train, want to go play football, want to
yeah,
go play baseball, basketball. If they're wanting to do it, you do everything you can to support that.
yeah,
And that's been it's been a big part of what me and Sarah do for Jack. The girls weren't real heavy in sports, so it wasn't a big thing for us. Savannah played a little bit, but Jack is if he wants to go, we're going to support it,
yeah.
and we're going to take him to camps, and we're going to take him to tournaments. He's got a tournament this weekend in Duncanville. Um, AAU ball it's big. It's big out in Texas, So we just try to be there and support them,
Yeah.
as much as we can. And I think our lifestyle nowadays we learned, we're able to do that. Especially Sarah and I both work from home, when I'm not traveling.
Yeah.
So it gives that flexibility, like, yeah, let's go. He's on a training regimen, let's take him. It's if he wants to do it, let's rock.
Where'd you learn the friendship aspect? Because when I think about it, and I even Dave, I want to, if you're listening, I want to apologize because when
Mhm.
he got divorced a couple years ago, or I don't know how many years, maybe 5 years ago, or whatever it was.
It took me 3 times to get it right,
I
Kelly. It's all
couldn't
good.
remember. Um, but when he got divorced, like literally, I think they went final, and the next day you were there, like in Vegas. This has been a characteristic of you that most people don't know about.
Yeah.
Like I was talking about Jessica downstairs to Jessica downstairs. You met her.
Mhm.
Um, you used to drive me to hair
Mhm.
school,
Mhm.
um,
What a
and
what
it
a cool
wasn't
time.
close.
What a cool time.
It was awesome. It wasn't close, um, but you made sure that I was there. You made sure that I got a ride home.
Mhm,
I remember there was times where you had to wait out in the parking lot for me, and things would be running a little bit late, and you would just be there. And then,
mhm.
where did you learn that friendship? Like, where did you learn that type of trait?
I don't I don't know, man. I think, I don't know if there's something my mom has always been pretty passionate,
Yeah, yeah,
when it comes to that. Um, I built a lot of loyalty, I guess when we were, just coming up, being loyal to everybody. I think that plays a huge part. I don't know if it was something that was ever taught to me or just something, hey, this is my best friend. Why would I not do? I'm not gonna leave him out to hang, you know? I just
but
I
that's not leaving me out to hang. That's literally you.
no,
And I don't even know what you were doing at the time.
right.
But and I would like to think it was only me, and I was, but it's not. It's a trait that you have, and it's a trait that I admire.
I don't know, and I appreciate that. I don't know if it was something I was ever taught or just something that was in me. I don't I don't know where it was picked up from. No one gave me the book,
Yeah,
so to speak, and how to do that. I just if someone calls and they need me, I'm gonna do my best to be there. Your mom passed, I was there.
yeah,
Um, Dale's situation, I
yeah,
was there. I try to be there for those types, as much as I can. Jansen, when that went on, but big those are big moments in our lives,
yeah,
and you guys want to see a recognizable face,
yeah.
when it happened. So I think that's huge.
Well, a big moment in my life was
Mm.
seeing you with your all white Skyway. That was way better than all of our bikes.
That's
How?
hey, that was a lot of damn newspapers.
So you bought the Skyway
I
yourself?
bought paid cash, $300, three
$300.
hundred
What
dollars.
year was that?
What year was that?
That was 1984.
Was it 84?
That was 84 or 85, one of the two. Because I got into town in
6,
84.
11. I would have been 11 years old. I thought it was a little bit older, 13 maybe. I thought it
You
was,
might have been. You were in fifth grade when you had it.
yeah.
Yeah.
That was a lot of papers, bro. A lot of Sundays getting up and throwing papers.
300 bucks.
300 bones,
How much did you make on your paper route?
$32 a week,
$32 a week.
probably.
Wow.
Yeah. I've came up a little bit.
Yeah. Came up a lot. How about military? How big of a
Oh,
impact in your life? Now we saw the military from our dads being in it, but then and I always think that for us
Mhm.
as military brats, we had an unfair advantage
Mhm.
because we were in a melting pot. Think of our friends.
Mhm.
If you name them off, name a couple. Who we got?
Will, DeAndre, Alfred, Dale, Pike,
Okay.
you, Jansen.
You just named off the United Nations,
Yep. All of
right?
us. Diversity,
You know
brother.
what I'm saying? Like
We are the DEI.
it was like it was all the way around. So we saw it from one side. What was the like? What was and we learned that part, and I think it's an unfair advantage because you got to understand different cultures, different types of food, different types
Mhm.
of moms that were connected in different ways and things, dads, all the things.
Mhm.
How about when you went in the military at 20 years old? What
Yep.
were some of the lessons, and would you suggest young kids going into the military now?
So I came in '94. I was 19, turning 20.
Okay.
And I didn't know what was going to happen. I knew because of our backgrounds, I wasn't going to have a problem with the adjustment when it came to the people part of it, right?
Yeah.
Um, and went through boot camp, went through tech school, and you're kind of waiting to where you're going to go, right? And I had no clue. And I remember my MTI, my military instructor, he's going, "Hey, we got you guys' orders," and he's like, "Where do you want to go, Airman Reagan?" And I was like, anywhere in the West, Nevada, Cali, somewhere like that. And he goes, "Man, you're going to LA." And I said, I'm trying to think to myself, where's a base in Los Angeles? He goes, "Oh man, you're going to Barksdale." I thought it was in Arizona.
I remember.
And he goes, "No, it's in Louisiana." And I was like, "Oh my God. Never been out of Vegas,
Hmm.
our whole life." And just starting there was a culture shock in general. Not because of the people, just because of Louisiana. Um, I
Explain the explain the South to someone who, because I explain the South like this, like it's Atlantis, right?
Yeah.
Most people who are there, there's a bubble over the top of it.
Mhm.
Most people who are there stay there
Mhm.
for their whole life,
Mhm.
never go out. The people who do go out never go back, right? So they get out and then they never go back. So it's not like you have because there's some people who will leave and be like, "Oh, I just got to get out of there." It's kind of like a small town, whatever it
Right.
is.
Mm.
But I didn't understand. I didn't have anyone that, we grew up in, California, but we also lived in Taiwan and Idaho and Utah and Florida
Mhm.
and all these places.
Mhm.
But I had never experienced the South. And it's a different, it's not, and some people are like, oh, Texas is the South. I'm like, no, no, no.
Nah.
Texas is its own planet.
Yeah, yeah.
It's its own planet.
It's its own deal. It's its own
How would
entity.
you explain the South to someone who has never been to, and when we're talking the South,
I'm,
you're in Shreveport.
I was in Shreveport, which a lot of people have been there. It's East Texas, so to speak. So I've been in the South half my life now, if you think about it. You know, uh,
Really?
yeah, I've been in and out of Louisiana
Oh my
since I was
gosh.
20. In and out
So
of
more
Louisiana.
than half your life.
Yeah, in and out. With Texas, the last 7 years in Texas, but in and out of Louisiana just because of living and work and whatnot. But South Louisiana is a whole different world. It's a different culture. Louisiana, I love New Orleans and anything south of Lafayette. It's its own, like you said, it's got its own like world.
Yeah.
It's a different way of life. I love New Orleans. It's one of my favorite cities in the world. I don't know if I can live there, just because of just
Yeah.
you got to be part of that culture. The people are awesome. The food is awesome. The entertainment is awesome.
Yes.
But Sarah would move there in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
If we didn't have the kids and the kids were off doing life and stuff like that, I could probably do that. And like maybe it'd be a 6 month home, to go to and have
Yeah.
just to live in the quarter. I mean, that's unbelievable. But South Louisiana, South Alabama, South Mississippi, it's a different way of life, man. It is extremely slower
Yeah.
than here in Carlsbad, San Diego. Even Texas. Living in Fort Worth, it's a lot slower. That's how stuff moves down there,
Yeah.
and they don't want to change it.
Uh-uh.
And politics are crooked than a question mark there. But
What also too? What did it teach you as far as I'm just checking my phone to see if it was my daughter?
you're good. You got to
Um.
go.
Oh no, she's taking her.
Okay.
Um. What about the military as far as uh, teaching you about life and teaching you more about? I mean, because obviously we learn that as a kids, but it's a different when you go in as an adult and being able to connect on a different level.
I think I had a different. outlook on my dad was I can't recall for you guys, but my dad was Vandenberg was his only base. I didn't have
Ever?
Yeah, you gotta understand too, when our parents were in the military, there wasn't a whole lot of military activity campaigns going on
Okay.
that were huge, major ones.
Yeah.
After our parents got out, of course, Desert Storm kicked off in '91.
It's wild that you say that though, because see, my dad went in at Hill Air Force Base,
Right, in Utah.
and then he went to
And
let's
see
see, he went to England next,
and where was that? Mildenhall, Lakenheath?
Lakenheath.
Lakenheath, okay.
Then he came back to Hill.
Okay.
Then he went to Taiwan.
What was he doing in Taiwan? Do you
He
remember?
was
Because that would have been a special duty for him, I would assume, being
it
out in
was,
Taiwan, yeah.
and he wasn't supposed to bring the family.
Correct,
S
he had a remote
Yep,
out
he had a
there.
remote,
Right.
but he brought the family.
Oh,
So, yeah, he brought my mom.
right.
My mom was 19 years old. Um, was 19. So 19 years old, I was just born, or
Mhm,
maybe she was 20. So she has two small children, like my brother's 2.5, and I'm just born.
mhm,
She's 19, 20 years old, and she flew hops
mhm,
from Utah to Taiwan.
mhm.
So for those of
They still do hops.
explain hop, well, at hops at that time too was the cargo plane
Mhm.
with the
C-130s and whatnot.
the net.
T-130.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
with the net on the side, and
So you're
she's
basically if you were a military dependent, you were able to get on what they call hops if the seating was
yeah.
available. If if they didn't have priority before you, any kind of officers or anything like that, you were able to get on with your family and dependents.
But I can't imagine my mom flew over by herself with us too.
Oh yeah.
I mean, at the time, obviously, there's no cell phones, there's no communication.
Mhm.
She's never been out of the country,
Mhm.
and my dad's just like, no, I got to have you guys here.
Mhm.
So they go over,
That's
and
awesome.
yeah, so we lived over there, for a bit, and then he went to Idaho,
To Mountain Home.
Mountain Home, and
Mhm.
then with Mountain Home, that's when he got on with NASA.
Oh, cool.
So he got on with NASA and then went to because he was I don't know if you know this, but he was one of the first 7 safety people with the shuttle program.
Oh, cool.
So which was called the Lucky 7.
And that's what brought him Vandenberg, probably, right?
So yeah, well, he went to Kennedy Space Center.
Oh, okay.
Uh, you know, he had I mean the clearance that he had was ridiculous. He has
Mm,
pictures which he wasn't supposed to have. I
mhm,
still got them
mhm.
in the Challenger, in the cockpit,
That's
sitting in
dope.
the cockpit.
Yeah, that's dope.
And then he came to Vandenberg to Slick Six to bring the launch when they were going to launch it out of Vandenberg. My dad was heading up the safety program when he came out to
And
do
now
that.
look what they're doing out there at Slick 6.
Yeah, right.
Crazy.
With SpaceX.
Musk is doing his thing out there,
Oh my
man.
gosh.
That's crazy what he's doing out there, man. But yeah, it's
So you were saying, I mean, with your dad, Vandenberg was his only base.
Vandenberg. So he only went to he did a remote once to Korea in 80, 89. But he didn't.
Really?
Yeah. So a lot of our parents, I was gonna say, a lot of our parents came in after the Vietnam War. That 71 to 72
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
time frame. I don't know. Your dad may have came in earlier. I think your dad was older
Yeah, he came
because
in.
I think my dad came in right before I was born. So I think my dad came in 72, 73.
I think my dad came in 71. I think it was 71 or
Right. So
something like
right
that.
after the tail end of the Vietnam War.
I think it was 70 because no, maybe 71, 72 because he was in 14 years
Mhm.
and he got out in like 86.
Right. Right.
I think it was 86.
Yeah, so I had a different, kind of outlook because I didn't get to experience anything because my dad didn't go anywhere.
Mm,
I experienced Vandenberg my whole life.
yeah,
I'm thankful for it. It is
yeah.
what it is. My path was way different.
Way different.
I came in 90, like I said, 94, and it
Did you go
start.
to Desert Storm?
I didn't know Desert Storm had already
It
closed.
was right
Yeah,
after
it was right
because
after
Guy
it.
went to that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Clinton had just bombed Kuwait
Okay.
in 91, 92.
Yeah.
I got to Barksdale, like I said, Louisiana, 94, and I started then. I did 9 tours in the Middle East.
Uh huh.
A lot of you guys don't know some of my stories.
Well, we're gonna learn them.
I know, right? Um,
So 9 tours in the
nine
Middle
tours in the
East.
Middle East. I started in '96. I
How
don't.
freaky was that the first time going?
My first go was in Riyadh, and I was at the Kobar Towers when I got blown up.
Really?
hmm Yeah, I was at work. Bunch of our troops and stuff like that. All my teammates and whatnot. They were in the Kobar Towers when I got hit when the truck came in front of the dorms. So after that, we grabbed all our guys, everybody that was injured and whatnot. They did their thing, medevaced out and whatnot. We moved over to Al Khars. I went over to Saudi Arabia after that, and set up shop. For it was what was going on at the time.
Yeah.
Left there, came back, went back to Saudi in '97.
Yeah.
Um, Stayed there for about 4 or 5 months. Came back in the '97 or something like that. I had a little break. '98, I didn't have anything going on. '99, I was sent to Kosovo during the Milosevic. So we were bombing what was going on over there with Milosevic.
What do people not know about when you go? Because you have both sides. You have the one side that is saying, obviously, like super military. We need to protect our stuff. Then you got the people saying, the war is so awful and things like that. And then you got the people saying, like, why are you, harming innocent people while you're over there? And all this stuff is being said,
Mhm.
although none of these people are actually there and experiencing what you're experiencing.
Don't believe everything you see on TV. It's one of the most important things you can kind of take from all that, right?
Yeah.
It's I mean, you sign up to do a job. You know what I mean? You sign your oath of commitment to the United States,
Yeah.
and that's what you raise your hand to and put your hand on the Bible for when you do that. I didn't know what I came in for. I don't know what it was. It wasn't like, oh my God, I'm this U.S. patriot guy.
Well, I remember, like, during that time, like, it wasn't like you were like,
Yeah,
"Hey, I need to go and, serve," not to say you weren't going to serve the country,
right.
but, you weren't this guy that was like,
Yeah, I wasn't. I wasn't.
no. It was more I mean, would you say that it was more of a situation for you? The choice was more of like, "This is the best thing to do for me as an individual, as like, a career, and
Absolutely.
for my family right
Right.
now."
At the time, yeah,
Yeah,
that was it. I was like, man, I got to do something. And this was my ticket to do that. And I had to figure it out on my own. There was no book. It was,
yeah.
you had to figure it out on your own, right?
Yeah.
There was no book to it. And um, you, you learned a lot going through those tours, those 9 tours I did, you
Yeah.
know,
So
again.
you said your second one was in, Saudi Arabia. Where'd you go after
So
that?
second and third, I was over in Kosovo with the
Got
whole
it.
Milosevic crisis that was going on, and then they kicked us when he called the ceasefire, and we ended up over in England, this little town called Fairford, and
Okay.
I partied like a rock star, did a lot of stuff I probably shouldn't have, but
Yeah.
um,
A lot of, youth group and
yeah,
hymns and
church,
stuff like
yeah,
that. Yeah.
Proverbs.
Yeah, exactly.
Came back,
A lot of Gatorade.
yeah,
A lot of
yeah.
Gatorade. Yeah.
'99, yeah, like I said, I was in Kosovo for a little bit. Came back 2000, headed back to the desert again. I was back in Saudi.
Mm.
Um,
How was Saudi?
I loved it.
Yeah.
Yeah, got to do the Kuwait thing and Ali Al
Okay.
Salim, and went back there. And what was that? 2000, and I think that's about the time they captured Saddam Hussein. Right around that time.
Really?
Yeah, so I came back from there. '01, I had a little break, and of course we had the towers go down, Trade Center, and I was on leave, and I had orders to Korea. That was my first short tour. So I lived in Korea for 2 years.
Really?
Mhm.
How was
Lived
that?
Loved it. My
Yeah.
favorite tour ever.
Really? Why?
Love South Korea. It was so just it was small, 2,500 people on our base. It was a family, just
Were you
close.
married at that time?
Um, see, 2000, so like I said earlier, I was married. Sarah's my
Yeah.
third wife. In Korea,
Takes 3 to get it right.
it does. She did it
Yeah.
right, man.
She did it
I
right.
did it right.
Yeah.
Um, I was there. No, I wasn't married the first time
Okay.
when I went to Korea.
Okay.
No. So I did Korea for a year. What was that? '02 to '03, right
Yeah.
after. And I came back and I had orders to Tucson.
Yeah.
So I lived in Tucson for 4 years.
Was
And
Jeff there?
Jeff was not, I was with Jeff in Korea. I was
Oh, you
stationed with
were.
Jeff.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Funny story. I'll get to it at the end though. But um I was in Korea, came back, had orders to Arizona. And I was just getting Arizona was just it was just me and Sarah. We didn't have any kids yet. And then Savannah was just born in 2005. Well, as soon as I got back from Korea, the first time I got to Arizona, and the war kicked off in Iraq. And I did 3 tours in Iraq after all that. So I did '05, '06, and came back, and I moved back to Korea for another year. Um,
Really?
yeah, so I was married to Sarah. She
Uh-huh.
was working at the base, and doing her thing with Savannah at the time, and all of a sudden, boom, pregnant with Brooklyn.
Yeah.
And I was in Korea still, so I didn't see Brooklyn the first 10 months of her life.
Really?
So I was on a phone in full gear on a TAC-P phone. A lot of people don't know what that is, but I was
What
on.
is that?
It's like a military phone you could take out in the field,
Yeah.
tactical phone. And I was able to call into the base while Sarah was giving birth to Brooklyn, so I got to hear her
Oh my
give,
gosh.
yeah. So I didn't get to see Brooklyn for the first 10 months.
How is that to come home after 10 months
Crazy,
and to see this 10-month-old human?
crazy. It looks just like me.
Wow.
Yeah, Brooklyn's my spitting image. You know, but yeah, it was crazy. But they're close.
Yeah.
Good. The two of them, Brooklyn and Savannah, they're
Uh-huh.
they're pretty close. The older they got, the closer they've gotten.
Yeah.
They fought like sisters should when they're younger,
Of
but the
course.
older they've gotten and gone through their own paths a little bit and understanding more of life. But they're pretty close.
Yeah.
Very different, complete opposites, but very close. So I came back from Korea in '07. Had orders back to Louisiana. Actually, I originally had orders.
To Bossier?
Actually, yeah, I had orders to Little Rock.
How did that?
I didn't want to go to Little Rock, so I had a guy I knew, a chief guy. I started making. I'm missing a whole lot of stuff, but I started making rank. Right, started getting promoted and
Yeah.
whatnot, and I had some people I knew that were a lot upper that I worked for in my career field, and he was able to change my orders because I was like, I don't Little Rock, I know. So I was like, that's
At this
cool.
time, what rank are you?
I would have been an E6 at that time.
What's E6 now?
Tech sergeant.
Tech sergeant.
Yeah.
Got it. Got it.
So that was '07. Came back and then we were at Barksdale till '08 to 2011.
Yeah.
And I went to then my final mid-eastern tour was in Turkey. So I got a special duty there. And I
Okay.
went to Turkey. I lived in Turkey
Uh-huh.
on the outside. I lived on base, but my job was in this little town called Ceyhan, a
Did you
village.
take your family?
No,
No.
no, not on this one.
No.
Because I was packing the whole time I was there because I ran security on the border for all of our fuel trucks that would come
Okay.
in from Iraq to Turkey.
Yeah.
So I was armored up, Land Rover. I got to wear clothes like this. I had a beard. I
Uh-huh.
looked like some crazy Navy SEAL that I was not.
Yeah.
But we got to run security for our trucks so they weren't because they were getting shot at. So we would kind of run security for our trucks because the Syrian border runs right there. So the Syrians were doing their business.
What's the part that they don't tell us about?
That they're not gonna tell you Syrians are sitting there locking on with you a thermal gun on their truck all the time.
Really?
Oh
What is the stuff that they're telling us that isn't that's more hype than it is true?
yeah. I guess a lot of the campaigns, that we hear about on TV, I don't think it's as big as what they say it is.
Okay.
We'll see pictures of all these jets on carriers and stuff like that. Yeah, they're out there doing missions, but are they out there bombing everything? Or every time you see a picture of them on CNN or Fox or whatever, do you see them? They're not necessarily bombing everything. They're out there doing sorties. They're doing missions.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's part of what they do. Just because you see them on TV doesn't mean they're dropping bombs on everybody and their mama. That's not it.
How was the transition for you out of the military?
Tough,
Why?
tough. I learning how to deal with the civilian sector in the work world, the job world, and
Okay.
not putting so much. I think not putting so much emphasis on, you know, I don't have a bunch of airmen that work for or soldiers working for you anymore. I have people who probably may never been in the military, so it's hard to separate that sometimes. But then you still have the discipline of it and the priority management of it
Yeah.
that you learn while you were active duty. So
What about the leadership side of it? Because in the military, when you hear someone ask you to do something,
mhm,
it's like you're trained not to even question it. I
right,
mean, that's what the way that you're both of our dads were.
mhm,
Um, and then you come into the civilian world, and I even find it, coaching football, um,
right,
because the kids get it from their parents, but the parents a lot of times, I mean, when in a civilian side,
mhm,
I think we have an unfair advantage there too
mhm,
sometimes,
mhm,
um, in leadership because it's very simple to take an order and do that order,
mhm.
right? How was that transition for you? when you went into it and you had people that maybe didn't have that background? Because you can't just blow through people and say like this is the way that it is, because that's not the way that civilian business works.
Right.
You've got to be in touch with where the
You
person
you
came from,
you
who they
do,
were.
right, you do, and because you gotta deal with you don't know their you gotta understand their culture, and a big thing for me was when I took the job in Fort Worth. Here I am, this 43-year-old guy who just retired from the military, and I'm put into a government contract job where people have been there for 15, 20 years and who are 15, 20, 25 years older than I have.
Wow.
So now I have to get that group of guys to buy into what I'm selling, that leadership
Yeah,
role.
yeah,
What can this kid that just got here, 43 years old, tell this 60-year-old man, 55, 60-year-old man who's been doing the work for 20, 30 years
yeah.
to buy into what I'm selling him? And it starts with being the example. It starts with trust, honesty, loyalty.
How long does that take? Because at 43, a lot of times you're the kid
Right.
coming in, and you're not a kid at 43.
Right.
Plus, you're retired from the military.
Right.
But to a 60-year-old, you're a kid.
You're the new guy, right? You're this new guy who's coming in and thinking, you're going to make these waves, you're going to change stuff. And, I'm the type of person, if it ain't broke, don't try to fix it either, depending on what that looks like. I'm good. I love change. Change is good.
Yeah.
And I think change needs to happen a lot, and it's how you present it to them, you know. But a big thing is the example. If you're down in the trenches with your guys, they see that, they appreciate that, and they respect that.
Yeah.
So that time comes up and says, "Hey, man, I got this guy calling out. You think you can come in this weekend?" And they don't hesitate to do it for you.
Okay.
I think that says a lot about your leadership side of it. Of just being the example.
Yeah.
Integrity's huge, man. Integrity's huge.
How long did it take to build it? How long did it take to build the trust when you came?
When I got there to Fort Worth,
Okay.
it didn't happen overnight. I'm not going to say that. I was on that I worked for that. I still work for the company, obviously, but in that field or that position, it probably took a good year for
Really?
them to really grasp on to go, okay, this guy knows what's going on. He's going to take care of me.
Uh huh.
And I think when they understand that it plays a big part in moving forward with these guys and making this contract do what it's supposed to do.
What do you wish that people knew about like veterans that are coming out of the military into civilian business?
Hmm.
Because I think a lot of times it's one of two things that I've seen. Either that person understands the unfair advantage
Hmm.
of knowing all the different cultures, the languages, all those things, and then just skyrockets. And then there's the other side that really flounders, right? And because they're not a part of a team, they're not a part of a culture that they don't have that place that their uniform doesn't have to be as in place as it
Hmm.
was,
Hmm.
things like that. I don't see as much of the middle. I'm sure that there's the middle, but what do people not know about that transition?
I think you don't lose what you've learned in the military when you move to that transition. Don't lose that. Don't lose the. You don't have to shine your boots, but don't lose the. Hey, I'm gonna press my clothes for work. Don't lose the low hanging fruit stuff. Don't bring that to the table, uh, to your new place of business. Employers like that. They want to see you clean shaven. They want to see your gig line lined up. They want to see your haircut or whatever the case is. The simple things. And those are, like I said, the low hanging fruit. Don't lose that when you get out of the military. And then bring those leadership qualities. The government pays for you to go to those trainings and those schools for a reason. And it's just not to train soldiers. They're lining you up for success afterwards.
Mm.
I think that transition is huge. Been to multiple leadership schools. You
What
know,
about taking advantage of the talk about that? Because
hmm
taking advantage, because there's so many different programs that a lot of times while you're in it,
hmm
you sometimes can look past it, right?
hmm
And obviously, you took advantage of the things, but a lot of times people can look past it.
hmm
When I mean, even with a person, every day you have your dad around, your mom around,
hmm
every day, and then they move away,
hmm
and you're like, man, I could have gone to ice cream with her, you know, 3 days a week when I didn't.
hmm
How important is that to take advantage of every single program while you're in the military?
Very. And a lot of people, I tell even my kids now they're not in the military, right? But there's so many resources, right? I tell my kids, and I encourage you to tell yours, and our guys' kids, our friends' kids, take advantage of those resources that are on campus. They're everywhere. And if you're not utilizing them, you're not helping yourself. Ask the questions. There's not a stupid question. You might be embarrassed or whatever, but use those resources, use those student, advocates, use those training sessions that are free. Like, hey, come to this class. We'll teach you how to do this. Absolutely. You know, they're throwing at you left and right for a reason. I remember going to Savannah's orientation
Uh-huh.
at LSU in Baton Rouge, and how many places on campus that were available to everybody. It didn't matter if you were black, brown, white. It didn't matter, that were available to each student to go take advantage of. You know, take advantage of those resources. Ask the hard questions. Ask the easy questions. If you don't know, you don't know. But you're not going to know unless you don't ask questions. You ain't catch no fish. You ain't gonna poles in the water. You know what I mean?
Well, what were some of the things that you didn't realize until later that like are unusual? I say unusual friendships because I mean, I'm sitting across from you right
Mhm,
now and I met you when I was 9,
mhm,
right? This is cool for me because it's like number 1, I get to share this with you, which I
mhm.
don't get to share with everybody.
When do we get to
Um,
flip this mic on you?
Whenever you want, man. Um, but I get like I get to share this with you. I've
Mhm,
got to share a lot of things with you. Like when I started in the hair business,
mhm,
again, people didn't understand it,
mhm,
right? You supported it, but sitting across from you, I'm 9 years old. We meet, we're 50. Oh, you're 50. I'm about to be 50. What are some of the lessons that you learned during those times that you didn't kick in until maybe it's in the last couple years or later on in life that you were like, man, I went through that and now I can apply it and it gives me an unfair advantage.
I don't know if it's unfair. Do we think it's unfair
I
advantage?
think it's unfair. The reason why I say unfair advantage is
Mhm,
because I spoke to a bunch of veterans, right?
mhm,
And all of them were a lot of them had just come out of the military.
mhm,
And a lot of them were like, "Oh man, I feel like the cards are stacked against me."
mhm,
And what I said is, "Guys, you're the only people in the world, only people that are forced into a place
mhm,
where there's a melting pot of people because let's face it, I live in Carlsbad.
mhm,
Most of the people in Carlsbad look like the people in Carlsbad.
mhm,
Even where you live in your neighborhood, I could scour your neighborhood and a lot of people look exactly the same.
mhm.
And I can go to Koreatown. I could go to, a Japanese part of the community. I'm not saying that that's it. It is what it is. Like
Mhm,
you go into a neighborhood, and a lot of times, if you aren't in the military, you grow up around people who look like you
mhm,
and don't challenge. I got challenged with. I remember opening up a can from my buddy Richard Cox on bass,
mhm.
and opening up a can and being like, "What is that kimchi?" And his mom had just taken it out the backyard that
The
she had
ground.
buried it,
Yeah.
and I was like, "What is this?" And then you eat it, and you have this cultural part. That's why I said to them,
And some of my favorite food in the world.
"You have an unfair advantage because most people never get that opportunity." But like, I mean, so that's what I mean by unfair
I
advantage.
think, yeah, and I think unfair might be a good term, right? We had the advantage of the diversity factor. Our group is all different colors, all different shapes, sizes, backgrounds, and we learned to come together. And I think that's what makes us so unique. Here we get to lay down this guy, this half Hispanic, half white guy with dreads in the middle of Carlsbad and do his thing because of where he's from and how we were brought up. Here's this guy from Lompoc, California. Let's drop him in a 65% African American population. I did just fine. Put Will in Shreveport. See what happens. You hear me, Will? No, but I think
What about like a instance, like a specific instance, you go through it, like, I remember, um, youth center times, you know?
greatest times ever.
Oh, amazing.
Greatest.
Yeah. Especially if you were rich. Like if you were rich, you got a pizza, you were able to get a pizza. We like me and Rob were always broke and we were always like scrapping for like some now and laters.
Remember we used to break dance there.
Yes. My name was Baby Fresh.
Joaquin.
Oh man.
Who else was out there? Break dancing. Joaquin and
Greg Smith was a
Red
good
Smith.
break dancer. Yeah.
Always they bring
I
out
used to always surprise them. Because they assumed because
right,
I was not as brown as most,
right. You're
that
the brownest in Collinsbad, probably. Yeah,
yeah,
in this
it's
neighborhood anyway.
yeah, in this neighborhood, I would say. But do you remember any specifics that when you look back at it, you were like, "Oh man, that helped me in this particular area."
I don't I don't know nothing specific. I don't know if nothing that just jumps out other than just knowing the family that we had with each other. Our group was it was just so intertwined,
Yeah.
and we without cell phones back then, we always knew where each other was.
Yeah.
We always knew what each other was gonna be, well, I think it just made everything so much easier.
What about a specific story with maybe one of the group
Mhm,
that most of the group doesn't know about? Like, I mean, I think about we've told the story before and you and I know it well, but I
mhm.
remember driving back from Gaviota in your car,
Blue Honda Civic.
blue Honda Civic. We got the boombox in the back.
Boombox
We
in the
have to
back
have,
because someone stole my Kenwood out the deck,
yes,
out
we
the
probably
apartment.
know them. Um, we probably do know
It could
them.
have been the same people who stole me and Jansen's Nikes.
Oh my gosh. Or it could have been the same person that stole my 10-inch woofers in our Corolla station
Oh, that
wagon.
Corolla was bad.
Yeah, they were pile drivers too.
That was bad.
I know who stole that one.
Till this day, I still look for those VW type. What are they? What are the wagons called
It was a
now?
what was a Corolla?
No, you had the Corolla, but they have
Yeah.
VWs that look very similar to them now.
Okay, yeah, yeah. I
Not the
remember.
Carmagias, but the other ones.
I know the one that you're talking about, but I don't know the name
Anyway,
of it.
yeah.
But we were driving back and we got the boombox in the back with the D batteries and we had to make sure that they were set because it took like 16 D batteries to be able to have a boombox. So we had a stereo because you didn't have your stereo in there. And we have a blowout. And when we have we have the blowout, I think it was just you and I.
It was you and me. Yep.
So we're driving back and I'm thinking, oh man, I know how to change a tire, no problem. I grew up working on cars, all this stuff. And it was like Dad Johnny came out. Like, I mean, you were older than me, but it was like Dad Johnny came out. You were like, get in the car, and I was like, what do you mean, man? We gotta, we gotta change the tire, man. And it was like this Al came over, and you were like, get in the car, and I was like, nah, man, we gotta do it. And then you said it a third time, and I was like, man, I mean, I ain't trying to, I ain't trying to get my ass whooped on the side of the one, but
I'm about to say we were on Highway 1
yeah, we were on Highway 1
and
out by Halama.
not a street light
No.
nowhere around us.
And you just say, get in the car. And I was like, okay. So I get in the car and I was like, what's up? And you were like, I don't have a spare and we got to get home.
I didn't want the Halama ghost of Christmas past to come get us. I was like, get in, let's go.
And so you drove, and I remember we were driving probably 25, 30 miles an hour at first till we got to a point where that whole tire ripped off the rim.
I remember pulling into your neighborhood over there by the railroad tracks.
And it was boom, 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 boom. And it was, I mean, we must have destroyed it. I mean, I don't know that all our friends know about that, but what about something that the rest of the crew doesn't know about, but you had a specific time with one of the crew?
Trying to think about the time you and I jumped in the red Honda Civic
Mm.
and went to Vegas. Well, she probably doesn't watch.
Who?
Her name. We took her car. We said, I'm going to borrow your car for the day. We went to Vegas.
Oh my gosh.
What was her
Who
name?
who was it?
Blonde hair girl. She lives in Vegas now. She's a teacher.
No.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I forgot her name. Blonde hair girl. She may have been a year older than us. I forget her name. They don't know that
And
story.
we went and saw Dave.
We went and saw Dave.
Yeah.
I mean, we didn't do nothing crazy.
Yeah.
We just didn't
We
bring
just
we didn't bring
took-
the girl's car back for
just-
a couple days.
That's crazy.
Remember that?
Can you imagine? Can you imagine if your daughter had someone do that to their car? That would
Yeah.
not
I
end well.
see my middle doing that. Brook-
really.
Brooklyn. She's just
Okay.
like us, bro.
Yeah.
She is.
They got tight friends. They got a crew of.
Brooklyn does. She's not as many, but she's got her 3 or 4
Okay.
that they don't go far without each other.
Okay.
Savannah never did. She was an introvert, raised herself, but no, she didn't really have that tight knit. But they envy. They see me
Yeah.
in the group texts and the phone calls and
Yeah.
me talking about you guys all the time, and Sarah talks about it all the time. Sarah didn't have a big group either growing up, but she had a dance. Sarah lived out in the country, she didn't
Yeah.
have a bunch of friends. She had cousins.
Yeah. She had animals.
She had she did.
Yeah.
26 first cousins.
26.
26, bro. So that
Just
was
from one aunt and
one side
uncle?
of the one side
I'm
of the
just
family, yeah,
joking.
right? Y'all kinfolk. But yeah, that's who she had. She had her family. That was her friends growing
Well,
up.
I think it's wild when you said earlier too. I'm just going to check and see because I think um,
Mm.
some of our friends were texting us because it's March Madness too.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
I don't
Did you lose a bracket?
probably. No, I haven't looked. I
Yeah.
saw people were when I was driving up here from
Yeah. I
Yuma.
mean, they've been going nuts. And our like I think all of us would get fired if we showed our text strain from our friends.
All of us would
All
be
of us.
fired.
I remember one time.
Some
Uh,
of us would be in jail.
yeah, and canceled. Um, but I think if you don't have a tech, I'm going to shout this out. If you don't have a text strain with your buddies, that you would get canceled if it got out. If you don't have that, you don't have good friends.
Absolutely.
You don't have good friends. What are the friends like? I was going back on a thought. Is
Mm. I was trying to think of another incident.
30 years, right? So for you, 30 years was away. So more of your life has been away than it
Mhm,
was with.
mhm. I left when I left
You left
19.
in 20 at
Yeah,
20
because
years
my
old.
parents were going through divorce my senior year of high school.
Yeah.
So I don't know if everybody remembers that. I was going through a hard time.
How'd that impact you?
And it impacted me a lot because, I didn't know any different than my mom and dad.
Yeah.
I didn't have a big family.
It seemed like do you think it impacted your brother
I
more?
think I was just about to say
Yeah.
it impacted Josh a lot more. He was 12.
Yep.
I was dating at the time, with my girlfriend. We were fairly close, and that was kind of okay. This is my ticket out of Lompoc, and I don't want to deal with what's going on with my parents.
Mm.
You know what I mean? So I went to
UNLV.
UNLV
Yep.
for
History of rock and roll.
History of Rock and Roll 101.
Yes. That's a legendary story.
Oh my God.
History of rock and roll. How in the hell
Well,
did you
I needed to pick an elective, and they're like, "Oh, you could take this for what is it, humanities or something?"
Yeah.
I'm on it.
That's awesome.
So I was in
What'd you study? Do you remember
all of
any
it,
of it?
Rolling Stones, AC/DC,
Did
all
you
that
keep
stuff.
the textbook?
No,
That would have been a great textbook.
I lost a lot of stuff, brain cells. That 2 years I was there, bro. I mean, I fake ID. I was doing bad things.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it was. Of course, I left my girlfriend at the time, and I ended up moving to Jansen. I need a place to live, bro.
Yeah.
Of course, Gary and Sheila hated me,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
I was the town drunk.
Well, that's because Dave would say,
Oh, I was in
as
trouble
he
for
still
everything.
does, as he
Right?
still does, I can't believe what my friends did.
Shout out, Dave.
Which is the translation means Dave did it. He was
Uh,
in it, but he is going to
I
step
can't,
out of
and
it.
I'll defend Dave. I can't blame him for all this. I did a lot of it. It was my own doing. But he helped me out through that struggle.
Oh, yeah. Well, he
but-
helps everybody.
And
out.
again, that goes, I guess, back to full circle, right? I go back home and you need a job, bro. You got a kid on the way.
Yeah.
you know,
But what about take me back to the divorce part because
to my parents.
yeah, because like I don't think enough people talk about the impact
God, I
that
think I'm the only one of the group who had divorced parents. Pike,
Well,
but we didn't meet. We didn't know Pike
we didn't know
prior.
We didn't know prior, right?
So all we knew was Andy's
that is
mom.
wild because Will's parents stayed together.
Right, yours.
My parents, but I mean, my parents split
Jansen's?
up. Split up at
Yeah,
times, but they came back
Yeah,
together. It was
Jansen
just
stayed.
Jansen.
DeAndre's, of course. Alfred's, of course.
Wow.
Yeah.
I never thought of that.
never thought of it till we were here.
Dale's.
Dale's parents. Yep.
So all of our parents except yours.
Yep. My senior year. Yeah, I was going through that myself. I stayed at her house
Yeah.
a good portion of the school year, my senior year,
Really?
because I didn't want to go home and deal with it. Yeah, and I don't know. I think it was easier for me just to turn my head and not be, out of sight, out of mind. And then I guess kind of selfish on my part because my brother had to deal with it, and I don't know if it does affect him today. It might, but yeah, I think it played a huge part in him. The next levels, right? 12 years old. You're what, 6th, 7th grade? He still had 4 or 5 years of school
Yeah.
left, which he did okay, but I think he struggled a little bit, academically and just being there.
So what did you go through that we didn't know? Like I remember when I got Rob on the podcast,
Mhm.
it was awesome. I don't know if you got a chance to hear it, but it was like 3.5 hours of us just being
Yapping,
brothers
yep.
and just being, But he told me it was the first time I ever heard my brother say that he was insecure. Because from the outside,
Well, yeah, your
he was
brother
a legend.
yeah,
Like he's just a legendary.
we were all younger. He was the senior
Yeah.
quarterback and, the homecoming dude. And, he was Rob. Rob it was his person. I don't know if insecure.
But what did you go through? What were you going through that we didn't understand, that we didn't know as friends?
Mhm.
That because I had people this last time when I was in Lompoc,
Mhm.
and I said that we lived in Gaviota, and they were like, "We didn't know."
Who?
There was a couple of people that we met there, and I mean, we all knew, right? You guys all knew.
Yeah, we
Well,
slept
you
there.
were
We hung out
there,
there,
like, we
yeah.
had parties
We
there,
wanted to
like,
go to the nude
40
beach across the street.
yeah. With the BB gun.
BB. I'll shoot your eye out.
Yeah, but what, I mean, what, if anything, were you going through that we didn't know about?
I think that was one of the bigger ones. I didn't show that to you guys. I didn't show my cards a lot. I think even today I don't as much. You guys don't know about what I went through in the military. There's a lot of PTSD with me right now that I
Really?
don't share. Because I think I have a good way of camouflaging it. But there's times, if anybody knows, Sarah knows, she's with me all the time.
Yeah,
And understanding some of the stuff I went through. I've been through mortar attacks. I've been shot at. During when I was over there. I saw death. Right in front of us. I've
yeah,
carried bodies, onto a C-130 to go to Ramstein to get transported back to their families here in America.
yeah,
I saw that. So that plays a part in my mind at times. I don't share that. You guys don't need to hear that. That's for me.
yeah.
You know what I mean? You guys got your stuff to deal with on your own. I don't need to give that to you
But I
guys.
think it's something that you taught me where,
And
you helped me to realize that I wasn't alone in some of the stuff.
you're not.
You know
You
what I
went
mean?
out. You went out on this mission, bro. Just like this here. And I'm walking in going, but how in the world did you learn how to do all this shit? Sorry. Well,
You can say whatever you
yeah.
want, man.
How did you? I mean, I'm watching. I'm just in awe. But it took me back, right? It
Yeah,
took me back to Santa Maria Beauty College. How did you learn how to do this from this
yeah,
to what you do now? Or what you were now full time. This is a pure picture of just like you said, it's a passion of yours. So you grabbed it and started doing it. This is what I want to do. Kind of like I was telling you when I first got here about the business, right?
yeah,
I'm so afraid of a risk taker. Sarah isn't. She reminds me of you when it comes to the business side of the mindset.
yeah,
You got to jump in and do it. You're gonna find out on your own. Just like you were telling me when we were walking up here about business. You're gonna learn. You want to have the business to yourself,
yeah,
and once you start bringing those other people in here, it brings a whole different
yeah.
aspect of what you're trying to do. You know,
Mhm.
um, but no, I carry a lot of that with me in my own. Whether it was my parents, whether it was some of the stuff I saw when I was active.
If you explain PTSD to somebody who didn't understand it, like you took, say, Maddox, he's 13, or Jack,
Mhm,
they're 13 years old, and you explained it, and you did it metaphorically,
mhm.
right? How would you explain PTSD to a kid?
Man, you don't want to. You know what I mean? It's.
But how would you metaphorically do it? Not saying, hey, daddy saw people die or saw, got shot at or whatever it is. But if you could compare it to something
Mhm.
so a kid would be able to digest it and be like, oh, okay, I get it.
Um, I don't know. I've never been kind of in that predicament where a Jack, Jack. I don't. My kids don't know a lot of stories about. They just knew I was in the military.
Hmm.
Because my kids were for the most part pretty much grown. Jack was a baby.
Hmm.
Or, I'm sorry, the kids were a baby. They weren't grown yet.
Yeah.
I'd already got out of the military. And the kids were relatively young still,
Yeah.
so they didn't get to experience me gone all the time. They see me gone now,
Yeah.
but I wouldn't know. He'll ask me. He thinks because I was in the Air Force, we all flew planes and bombed people. No, I didn't do that. I
Yeah.
wasn't a pilot. I was sometimes.
But how can you? Yeah, I love that one. That was only to pick up the ladies at Moose McGillicuddy's.
Yeah, that.
I love that shout out too because that's a legendary story. It's a legendary Johnny story.
Yeah,
The CSI was another one. That was a legendary
legit.
one too. That was legit.
I don't know how I.
But like, okay, here's an example,
Mhm.
right? So I had a call and I was doing I always test stuff. I don't suggest that anyone go my way. That's why I don't like people are like, oh wow, give me the 3 steps on how to do it. I'm like, you wouldn't want to do it the way that I did it.
Mhm.
It works, but I wouldn't suggest it for anyone because most of the people don't have the stomach for it.
Mhm.
But I like to test and see if I can make something happen.
Mhm.
And I was speaking to a company on leadership. They asked me to do a call, but they said, "Can you do it now?" I said, "Yes, I can do it now because I want to take the opportunity."
Mhm.
But I happen to be walking my dogs. So as I'm walking the dogs, I'm thinking like, how am I going to get this message of leadership around to people? Well, because I was walking the dog, I right before I answered the call, I answered the call and my dog took a dump.
Mhm.
And I was thinking, this sucks because I'm supposed to be FaceTiming these people talking about leadership.
Uh,
And what God revealed to me at that time was leadership is like picking up a dog's dump. And because my dog never responded to me when I would just pet it, I thought when you fed it, it would respond to me.
respond, yeah.
It didn't. The only time that my dog ever started responding to me was when I walked behind it and picked up its poop. And when I picked up its poop, I got to see what it was actually consuming. And as a leader, if you'll walk behind your people and see what they
Dropped.
do,
Mhm.
then you can examine that to see
Mhm.
if your people are healthy or what they're consuming. And
Mhm.
then you can train them based off of what they're consuming as opposed to what you think they should be consuming.
Mhm.
And so I got to tell that story. Now it's so funny because my buddy is like, what's the next dog poop story? Because he had hired me into his company to speak leadership, and I talked about dog poop.
Right.
And then there was another time where there was again, I was on a dog walk, and the guy asked me, another company asked me, and I was on the call with them, and I said, your culture, because they wanted me to talk about culture. I said, your culture can be likened to dog poop. And they said, well, what do you mean? I said, if you touch even a little chip of dog poop, it has the same stink as a big piece of dog poop. There's
Mhm.
no poop that doesn't have all the stink. And some of your culture, aspects of your culture, don't have the potency that the middle has.
Mhm.
And so you got to make sure that all of it, if you touch any part of that culture, it's got to have the exact same stank that the whole loaf of doo doo has. And so it was just funny because I think on that part of it, but metaphorically, I just try to understand PTSD because most when you talk about it, like if a person talks about it, it almost like it goes like this, like right?
Mhm.
But that causes people not to talk about it.
And what helped me too, I would go see a therapist, weekly,
Yeah.
and for me to talk about
How was that at the beginning coming from what we came from? We didn't know what therapy was.
no, and then again, this was something that, the government reached out to me and said, "Hey, you should probably go talk to these people."
Okay.
So it was, and I think it helped me because it helped me talk about it. Helped me talk about what I saw, what I went through, what some of my friends saw, went through, losing friends, to suicide or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
Um, that's what helped me was talk about it.
Mhm.
You know, um, and he was great. He would ask me the right questions, whether we were talking about the poop and how stanky it got. But talking to someone and just telling your story about what has taken place the last 20 plus years, when you're active and seeing that stuff,
Is it likened to going to a bad movie and then having nightmares later?
no, no, it's funny, certain sounds, smells, um,
Trigger it?
trigger.
Really?
Yeah. I'm not big with fireworks,
Really?
especially if I can't see them. And I know everybody's like, oh, it's firework, but it's kind of like fireworks aren't big for me.
Okay.
Just not a fan. Certain smells get to me.
Like what smell?
I know a lot of times when I was, you guys have heard of the burning pits and all that stuff in Iraq and Afghanistan and whatnot. Here smelling all that. Waking up every day to that. I at times I could smell that in places, and it takes me there
Really?
instantly. Yeah,
How do you
absolutely.
get out of it? How do you snap back into like say, obviously if a person doesn't know you, they don't know your situation.
Mhm.
We have fireworks
Right,
and
right, and
you react and we're like, "Chill out, dude. It's just fireworks."
exactly, and it's kind of one of those. I just kind of I don't make a big scene. I'm not a scene person.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna be like, oh my god, I can't be around fireworks. I got PTSD. I'm not. I don't do that. It's kind of like my trigger goes on in my head. Again, very few people. Sarah, just
Yeah.
the one, really
Yeah.
kind of. She knows, and I kind of just remove myself quietly. I guess is a better answer. I don't make a big scene about it. Whether if I mean if I'm smelling something, obviously it's kind of something internally like, man, it just smelled like I was or just back in Iraq. Pooping in a wooden stall somewhere in the ground.
Yeah.
You could just that smell, that stench. It's funny. It just has happened the other day. It came up. I don't know if you saw the weather lately coming in through the Panhandle through Lubbock. down
Okay.
through Texas, they
Huh.
had a huge sandstorm. Well,
Okay.
the winds get so bad coming through Dallas and the Fort Worth area, and we were headed to Louisiana. We went to Louisiana last weekend, and I'm driving, and Sarah, I don't know if she was asleep on her phone or whatever the case was, and as I'm going through this, construction's going on, like it does in Iraq and Saudi all the time. There's always construction, and it's just a big dust bowl, right? And you're just hearing all the stuff, and as you're driving through it, and all of a sudden I go into that, and I'll tell Sarah, I said, "Man, I feel like I'm in Iraq." And she'll start asking me questions. Well, what did you see or what did you hear? I said, this is what it
Is
feels.
it good for her to ask you the questions?
Yeah, I
Does it
think
help
I
you
think
through
so. It
it?
helps me talk about it.
Okay.
Like, hey, baby, this is I'm telling you, this is exactly what it looks like
Yeah.
in the Middle East. Going down those roads that are just forever. This is what it looks like. This is what it feels like. Even going home to Lompoc, when I'm flying into Santa Barbara, what do you see out in the water?
Tankers.
All the oil rigs. That's all you see for miles in the Middle
Wow.
East. So I start seeing that and it triggers me because that's all you see. That's what lights up the skies in the midnight hours in Kuwait is those fire burning off their oil rigs. And that's what it reminds me of. It just clicks onto me, you
How
know?
long? I mean, are you able to snap back pretty
Yeah,
quick?
yeah. It's nothing like I'm gonna go out and do something crazy. It's
Yeah.
just it's there.
Yeah.
It really is. And you know, um I don't know if it affects me, like daily stuff where
Yeah.
oh my God, I need to go sit down and talk to someone. It's just those stuff trigger it, man.
Yeah.
They pick up, or watching the news sometimes. I try not to watch as much news. I do watch the news. I want to know what's going on, but seeing, some of the stories, I'm just like, it ain't true.
Yeah.
That ain't real.
Yeah.
That ain't really what's going on. But then you see, you'll see like the troops coming in, from Delaware, in the Dover Air Force Base or from Ramstein. I was like, man, I used to be part of that, loading those troops up, because they're going to see their families as they just passed away. They just got killed.
Yeah.
That stuff triggers it. Of course, everybody's sad. They're seeing that. It's horrible. But when you're there and you're just so remotely close to it, you're hands on and you see it and understand it. It brings you back to that moment like that
Yeah.
in an instant. Brings all that back to the moment in an instant. And I say this to this day, even though, I'm being 50 right now, I'd do it again.
Yeah.
Yep. I'd strap them up right now. Crazy. I would,
Yeah.
but it's just in me.
What about the part that you wouldn't, as far as, is it the stay being away from the family? Is it
Family's
okay?
tough, man.
Yeah.
It's tough. It's tough today, sitting here. I'd rather be at home.
Yeah.
Jack's at AAU basketball practice. I love being there with him and filming him and
Yeah.
seeing what he's doing wrong and what he's doing right. That's what I'd rather be doing.
Yeah.
I'd rather be making bone broth for a living.
Yeah. Well,
Uh,
you will be.
yeah, I
You
know,
will
right?
be.
I gotta crank it up, man. I'm
You will
I'm
be.
I'm what they call Jansen half stepping right now.
No,
So
you ain't half step. I think you're doing it right. That's what we were talking about is like most of the time people just throw money at something as opposed to putting in the work. And when you put in the work and you understand it,
mhm,
when you systemize it later and then you release those parts of the manufacturing and the shipping and all those things, you're going to be able to manage the systems at a level that most people won't be able to do.
right.
That literally, like, because I just watch people. And I learned this from a guy named Luke Jacobellis. He was a, CFO of, he was the president of Paul Mitchell. So he took Paul Mitchell from like 2 million a year to multi billions a year,
Heck yeah.
right? And what he told me, he said one of the biggest challenges that businesses and entrepreneurs face is just cash flow,
Mhm,
and their cash flow gets constricted by a lot of times they over leverage.
mhm,
So they'll over leverage to go and get their own kitchen.
mhm.
They'll over leverage to go get people, then do all this distribution, all this stuff, as opposed to putting in the work. And what he talked to me about was that, for a lot of years, Paul Mitchell only had like 3 or 4 employees,
Mhm.
but we saw it as this big thing,
Right.
but they kept it and they knew the system so well. So, I mean, I just want to encourage you on it. Let's go back to the friend part.
Yep.
Like, I'll put out a name and you give me something that maybe that friend doesn't know about the way that you feel about them or your friendship with that particular person. Does that make sense? So, um, because I think a lot of times we don't understand. I mean, you've always been like a ridiculous communicator with me.
Mhm.
You've always given me a unfair advantage. Like,
Well,
and I've always admired it, and I've always, you know,
Why
Like
do you think I give you unfair advantage?
always, man. Like I almost come to tears with it with um um
Speak
there
on
are
it.
tears,
It's all
but it's Santa Maria. Like,
right.
cuz I wouldn't have got there. Um and going through like all the stuff like
Mhm,
career-wise
mhm.
cuz it was not normal, you
It
know.
wasn't, it was a different path. Nobody saw that for you, man. I don't nobody did.
No.
And then the greatest thing about it is that no matter which one of us, we always had that your support behind no matter what you're you know, we didn't care, but I don't know, the support side was easy for me. We're gonna support all these guys no matter what they do, right?
Yeah.
Jansen, we knew exactly what Jansen was gonna do. You know what I mean? Not
I
not
know.
you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Seriously, and he's one of the most successful people ever met.
Yeah.
He's awesome at what he does.
Yep.
What he I mean,
And made up his own job
yes,
when you're not allowed to make up your own job in the
and
profession
he
that he's
did
doing.
it. He did it. He's a professional in his own right mind of his career.
Yeah.
You know, again, honestly, looking at Will, I never thought Will would be doing what he's doing now
Yeah.
in my right mind. Will
Yeah.
was that C or D student coming up.
Yeah.
Will is brilliant. Will is smart. Way more intelligent than I am. I think so. Super smart. Pike, who would have ever guessed this guy's gonna go out and be some great chef and caterer, and all of a sudden, oh my God, he's one of the top guys in the ER room as a registered nurse.
Yeah.
Never.
Yeah.
Of course, Angie didn't get a job till he was 45. Shout out, Pike. uh, Dale.
Yeah.
Dale's a great example.
Yeah.
So I'm so like I hate to use the word proud. I'm not better than Dale by any means, but dude, I'm so proud of Dale
Yeah.
because he's had some rough times
Yeah.
to see where he is now. There was a bunch of I think layers that he had to go through
Oh,
to
yeah.
go, oh my God, now I'm a federal civil service worker working for the government. Dude, shout out, bro.
And to
That's
start where he did and the
yeah.
example that he is to all of us as far as his marriage,
Oh,
as a
bro.
dad,
Yeah.
to go through all those because I mean, he was a dad, I mean, so young,
Hmm.
but also the honor that he has for his wife, the love that I mean, seriously.
Absolutely.
I mean,
Absolutely. DeAndre's journey,
yeah.
from, his relationship with Andrea, dating back to middle school, to where they are now and where he's taken, his career field as a fireman, as one of the top firemen probably in our county,
Yeah.
as an African American in our
The
county.
first in Lompoc.
Exactly.
I had him on the podcast and we were talking
I,
about
I
this,
think I saw some of that. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
he had said that he was the first in Lompoc history. First African American
And see,
firefighter
dude,
in
I think it's a testament of who we are and where we
yeah.
came from.
Yeah.
We all have that our own path, but back to you, it was easy. It wasn't work. That's what makes it so great, right? All this is easy for you now. Just like when I walked in here, I'm like, holy shit. This is who did my first honestly first thought I thought it was Brooklyn's brother who hooked you up because he was the big editor. That's all I ever knew because I get to see your guys' life through pictures and
Yeah.
social
Yeah.
media
Yeah.
and group texts and
Mhm.
hey Brad did this edit, check it out, So as soon as I walk in, I was like, man, Brad hooked it up, and then you tell me and I'm like, well, now it doesn't surprise me. You know what I mean? It,
Yeah.
it, it takes us back to those days in the parking lot at the beauty college in
Yeah.
Santa Maria. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, no, he's got a passion. He's gonna do it, and he's gonna do whatever it takes to do it.
Well, it was wild because this was the first thing
Mhm,
since then that I really didn't understand it. Like
mhm,
5 years ago when I started in on the podcast, like it wasn't podcasting wasn't like it wasn't something. I mean, it was around.
mhm,
People were talking about it a little bit, but it was like, you know, and I remember talking to Paula and I said, I haven't had this feeling since, when I said I was going to hair school. Now, you guys always supported and always protected that part, like the core group of friends did. Um, but a lot of people would, I didn't share it with a lot of people too, because they would be like, oh, yeah, okay, cool. What are you going to do? That's cute. But what are you going to do? Like,
mhm,
for real, what are you going to do?
mhm,
And with this one, I didn't share it with a lot of people. I just literally like this was the and it still is. It's the lab like I come to in the morning. Um, you know, uh, I came in yesterday and it's like I almost, if I've got an hour, um, I'll just run to the studio, I'll just set up and then we just go.
Mhm.
And now we have the fastest turnaround time because most of it happens to be the process is cumbersome. So most people will do a podcast and then it'll come out
Mhm.
6 weeks later.
Mhm.
When we're done now, I'll take a picture of you and I'll show you. So I'll take a picture of you.
Mhm.
Um, we'll make the thumbnail. This is already uploaded on YouTube, but it's private, and I'll click it onto public, so it'll be live right then.
Right.
And probably by the time you get back to your hotel, it'll be on Apple and Spotify, and all the clips will be done, and then people will
I'm not
know
even
of the
I guess I need
legend
to become a YouTube
of
subscriber now.
of Johnny, right? You know what I mean? So,
I mean, we've been all over the place, man. It was yeah, I love it.
well, I think
It's
you're
good to talk about it. I don't talk about it a whole lot because you guys get the opportunity because see each other a lot. So you get to reminisce back a lot more than I do.
yeah,
Because I don't get the chance to get back and reminisce, and when then we're doing this now, it's like, man, it just, you talk about the youth center, you talk, you know what I'm saying? It's like,
yeah.
wow, man,
What
those are
about solving?
solving was
Driving back and forth to
to
play
play basketball
basketball.
on one of the greatest rims and basketball courts ever.
Dude, I wish do you think it's still there?
And I don't know, but probably one of the best dunks ever on Andy
Jansen,
Pike. Yeah. Jansen.
Jansen,
Yeah.
reverse, like catch
Reverse
it in
dunk.
the air,
And
reverse.
dunked on 6'11" Pike in fifth
Oh my
grade. Yeah.
gosh.
Those guys were great. Those two were great in high school, man. And I say that because I watch I follow so much high school ball now.
Can you imagine Dale? Like
Oh,
Dale
dude, Dale and Pike now.
and Dale, like I think about
Dale
them
was an absolute freak,
freak of
freak.
nature.
Yeah, freak athlete.
I've never seen an athlete
You
like him.
didn't have to teach or train that guy other than technique.
Yeah.
Now that I know the word and we're older and understand technique, I'm like, you didn't have to teach Dell. He was a pure athlete, but you had to teach him technique, because he looked like he was terrible as a linebacker because he didn't know any technique. But if he were to get his hands on you, it's a wrap.
Oh my gosh.
You know what I
That's the
mean?
strongest human on the
Oh,
planet
dude,
too.
his hand grip was the Hulk. I mean, it was crazy. We were kids. You know what I mean? Like, but yeah, just seeing him and Pike. I know we're venturing off, but just
Yeah.
watching him and Pike
Yeah.
and I think back and watching because I go watch a lot of games back where we live in a small town, so and they're good, and I sit back and I think about Pike and Dale, those kids like, man, Pike and Dale would have went off over here, you know what I mean? Would have just dominated. Of course, it's a different day and age when it
Yeah.
comes to ball now again than nowadays, but those guys, yeah, crazy man, just crazy to see where we all came from,
Yeah.
that little 805 town.
It's wild to see it, and when I say it, I'll talk about Lompoc or whatever it is, and, I'll joke and say, have you heard of Lompoc? And they'll say, "No," and I'll be like, "Oh, you just keep driving by."
Mhm.
Um, but so much magic in a town, um, I'm so glad that Dale is still there,
Mhm.
because we get a chance to go back.
Yeah.
Got to see Stacy Vigil,
Yeah.
probably one of the greatest female athletes of all time.
Oh yeah, coming out of her and Karen, the best female athletes I think I've ever saw come out of
Oh
there.
my gosh.
Um, yeah, her, yeah, Karen, Vigil,
Mhm.
um, um, rest in peace. Stacey Diaz was probably the next one coming up.
Yeah.
One of the greatest athletes I've seen female wise that come out of there. Who else female wise that was pretty gangster?
Who was the girl, out of Lompoc, played basketball?
Oof.
Um, I can't remember her name, but I mean, it was wild to see. Like we were talking about, Rob used to always joke and say that he'll give Stacy a hard time. He'll be like, "Oh, I was gonna marry you because then we would have had the greatest athlete kid." You know what I mean? But
Stacy's brother was a dog. We were
oh
all much
man,
younger, but
yeah.
Scott was a dog,
Well, you
man.
think about Mark Brunell, or is Mark
Mark
Brunell?
Brunell went to
Yeah, St.
St.
Joe.
Joe,
Yeah, it came out of
and
there.
we played against his younger brother, Matt
Yeah,
Brunell.
Matt Brunell.
Right.
It came out of Santa
Santa Maria,
Maria,
yeah.
but then you think about Casey Candell. Um, who was the other one that
Who was the freak out of St. Joe that played basketball? Black kid. He was good.
I can't remember.
Good. Like he was balling with Bobby and all them guys.
Okay, I can't remember who that was. But I mean, even Bobby Robinson. I mean, he was injury prone, but
I saw him on
he was on
Last
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 Chance.
Chance U,
Yeah, Last Chance U.
coaching. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
I was telling Jack about that, and
Coach Bobby. I
he's
had
like,
him on the
you
podcast
know this
too.
guy? I was like, well, I mean, I know him. I didn't hang out with him,
Yeah,
but
we didn't hang out, but I
he,
mean, it was in our school.
he
But
had way
it,
better hair than we did back then.
yeah, he had Patrick Mahomes hair back in the
Yes,
day.
yes.
Yes.
But his kids are ballers. You know who's a baller out in Texas right now?
Who's that?
James Loggins' kid.
Really?
Yes, he's down
Really?
in the Houston, I think the Woodlands area.
Okay.
Baller,
Really?
basketball and football star.
Okay.
Yep.
Speaking of football, you changed your favorite team.
Here we go.
This is, I don't
know.
know if this is even legal.
So going
Did-
back to
was
my
this
original statement, right?
Was
Or-
this an executive order?
I didn't
that
write.
happened?
I didn't write anything up, but you know, being in, I did. You know, Dale. You know, I love you, Dale. You know, I was
Miami
I was a
Dolphins.
Dolphins fan forever. I love Dan Marino. I
Okay.
just did. I love
Yeah.
Duper and Clayton.
Oh, yeah.
I loved it back in the day. You know, and I don't know. I moved,
Yeah.
and like I said, I've been in Louisiana half my life, and I like the Saints. Even I would say even before Breeze was there, we were still terrible.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I learned to. I'll tell you what, their fan base is unreal.
Yeah.
To watch the Saints, you know, again, but in that area of Northwest Louisiana where I lived, they're big Cowboy fans because, you know, growing up, you know, you're so close to.
Is Jack a Cowboy fan?
No, Jack is a Saints fan.
Okay. Would you allow that in your house?
No,
I wouldn't allow.
no Cowboy fans.
I would not
and it's a
allow-
struggle because Dak Prescott is from Houghton, Louisiana. He is from.
I wouldn't struggle with anything with the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, it's
One Mieko, shout out to her. She reached out to me and she said, "I don't know if I can listen to your podcast anymore because you've been giving the boys a hard time." I said, "I'll give the boys a hard time." For
the
the
boys
rest of my
give
life."
themselves a hard time.
Yes.
yeah, it's. And that living out there, they're all over the radio station,
Oh
the
my
fan base,
gosh.
it's a struggle bus.
You know what almost did get me? Landman. Have you watched Landman?
Love Landman.
Okay, Landman was
Do
amazing.
you know where it's based out of? Alito.
Is it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so loved that show.
Uh-huh.
The monologue that Jerry Jones had on that almost turned me.
Pretty good.
Really good.
Yeah, talking to John Hamm when he was
Yes.
laying in the bed.
Okay, if you have not listened to that monologue, listen to that monologue.
Uh-huh.
It almost
It's
justified in my head because I was like, how much of this is actually true?
right.
Which it's all true, right?
Right.
Is that it almost got me. And then I was like, no, it's the Dallas Cowboys. Just, because I like two teams.
What makes him a bad owner? The people
Oiler-
that surrounds him, the people he surrounds himself with. It means his family.
I think it makes him a bad owner that he won't allow people to do their job,
True story.
right?
I think McCarthy struggled. I think
Everyone struggled.
Garrett struggled. You know,
I mean, because he won't allow.
and look at the big picture, right? Jimmy Johnson came in, did what he did, and he wasn't putting up with Jerry Jones and stuff, and he bounced.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, I think it goes for any, like in your business, right? If
Right.
your boss hired you in to do what you do, you're
Mhm.
good at what you do, you're
Mhm.
the best at what you do,
Mhm.
but he wouldn't let you do that. And he constantly stepped in and said that he was the man.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just let him play. Like, don't take in my head, and I don't own a team,
You take a Robert Kraft approach.
but you don't do the press conferences after every game.
No,
You
you
don't.
see Robert Kraft up in press conferences.
No. I mean, I
You
think
don't see Rolls Royce or Bentley commercials.
no.
They're doing just fine.
And I think about this as like Mark Cuban was the closest to that. I mean, he was outspoken. He was on the sidelines. You saw him, but he wasn't talking about personnel and talking about. I mean, he was a vocal. It was almost like one of us
Right.
that bought a team that was excited about it.
I agree with that. I think he was like, "Oh, check out my team. Look what I got."
Yeah.
You know, he was like, "Yeah, I get to sit in the front row and watch these big tall black guys dunk all the time." You know.
Yeah.
And he probably knew nothing about basketball when he bought it. You
Yeah.
know, because what did he sell?
He was
internet, AOL,
TV.com.
Okay, TV.com.
TV.com is what it
And
was.
yeah, he didn't know. And look what he did. He's a businessman. He
Yeah.
sold it to that lady. I forget her name.
Yeah, it's Adelson.
Yeah.
Adelson. or
Super
Adelman.
billionaire or
Yeah.
something like that.
What do you feel about the Luka thing?
I hate it. I hate it for Dallas. You know, I'm a big. I don't say
Are you a
big-
Mavs fan?
I follow the Mavs. You
Okay.
know, I don't. They have a good fan base.
I think that the Mavs, once Once AD went down, which we knew he was going to because he's
Right.
frail,
Right.
and Kyrie went down,
Okay.
I believe that they should have fire sold Clay back to the Warriors.
To the Warriors.
Yeah.
I think Clay's just gonna not
And,
like the situation now because he doesn't
no,
have.
I'm saying for us, I'm a Warriors fan.
Yeah.
So I'm saying bring Clay back.
But you guys got Butler.
Yeah. But I'm just saying, like, he doesn't have to start.
Right.
He could come off the bench, but he'd be a sniper
What a great shooter.
and then
man.
retire a Warrior. Why not?
Yeah.
He got 4 championships there.
Business, man. It's
Oh, man.
it's money and these
So
guys.
you're a Mavs fan.
Not man. I love the Lakers. I do.
You do?
Well, because we grew up with the Lakers.
Yeah,
That's
that's
all I
true.
really knew.
Were you always a Laker fan?
I love Magic Johnson. Magic Johnson's one of my favorite players.
yeah.
You know,
Okay.
we all love Michael. Got it.
Of course.
But Magic didn't produce great shoes like we wear every day.
Is there any comparison in your head of LeBron to Michael Jordan?
Mm.
Or do you think that it's a generational thing that all of us get off our lawn, 50-year-olds are
I
MJ
think,
fans?
and this has probably been said over and over. I'm probably not, saying nothing different. I think LeBron is probably one of the greatest basketball athletes ever.
Mhm.
I think Michael's the greatest basketball player ever.
Yeah.
This guy went in and won 6 championship rings every time he played in them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now,
And would have won 8. He would have won 8 in a row.
You think
Now,
so? Yeah.
If he didn't, if his dad didn't get, because you think about that season, he went away.
Mhm.
Then he came back
Mhm.
when he wore number 45,
Mhm.
and that one they still did okay. If he would have just continued on,
Yeah.
I think that they would have strung them together. I mean, it still doesn't beat
And again
Bill
comes
Russell.
then comes the contracts and who's going to stay, who's not.
Yeah.
Is Michael going to make that much of a difference if you lose Scotty, if you lose Luke, if you lose Steve Kerr or whatever, Rodman or whatever.
Yeah.
Is it the same squad of what comes in and what goes out? You don't know, but they had something special.
Do you think that? I mean,
So
Shaq said it recently, where, which I was excited about because I'm a Dubs fan.
Yeah.
He was talking about that Curry needs to be in the conversation. Not to say that
He
he's the
changed. He
greatest.
changed the game, man.
Oh, phenomenal!
Dude, change the game, man. What he's doing is still stupid. What he does with the ball is incredible, man.
Yeah.
That was some Pistol Pete type stuff he does. You know what I mean? That's crazy. Pistol Pete back, he's
Yeah.
just crazy, man.
It was frustrating for me at first when it first started happening,
Mm,
because I was coaching basketball at the time. So it first started happening, and I was like, "Why is he making these decisions like this?" And then obviously, then you just keep loving on him, and he just changed the game.
mhm.
But every kid would just run it to the 3-point line and just heaving it.
Heave it up, yeah.
But they didn't realize that that was an art form, and he was practicing over and
That's
over.
the generational
I
change, right?
I love to see him. Do you like the product of the NBA right now?
Yeah, it's not awful. It's sometimes it's hard to watch. I think like the rest of us, we like the big games, the Lakers, the Warriors,
Yeah.
that type of stuff in midseason.
What about the traveling?
The traveling calls or the traveling of the
Traveling,
the
like,
non-traveling
the
calls?
non-traveling calls.
Yeah, horrible.
Can you? I mean,
Horrible, because it teaches just awful things at
like
Jack's age,
the tippy toe step back.
Oh, terrible. The James Hardens,
Oh, God.
yeah, that's a struggle to watch sometimes.
Yeah.
It seems like he's just kind of filtered out with his whole game.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, okay. Superstar
Hmm.
or non-superstar? KD.
Superstar. You don't think so, dude? A 7-footer taking shots like that, what he does?
This is my argument. Now, a lot of people argue with this. What time you got?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
7,
Is it?
Oh.
Is it 7 right now?
6:55.
Okay. So this is my argument with it. If you take KD off the Warriors, KD never wins a championship.
True story.
Nobody, for me,
I don't think KD is the type of person that's going to carry a team by himself like a LeBron or a Michael or Steph.
see, that's what I see. That's what I deem as a superstar, though.
I think he's
For me,
yeah.
that's what I deem as a superstar.
He's got a different angle that just is the way what game he brings.
Yeah. But I look at any team that he went to, the team went downhill.
He got a ring with Golden State and somebody
He got two.
with Golden State,
Two
right?
with Golden State, that's it.
That's it, right?
Then he went to Brooklyn.
get nothing. And he had
and he
Kyrie
had
and
everybody. He had
Westbrook. No, he had
Kyrie in his prime,
Kyrie,
and
George,
James Harden in his prime
James
too.
Harden, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean
And I wonder why. And I thought he would have got one with Oklahoma.
that team should have stayed together.
Yeah, that team was good, and
Oh,
Oklahoma's good now.
but he couldn't win with Harden
Mm-hmm.
right in his prime, Westbrook right in his prime, and
Mm-hmm.
him. They couldn't win a championship. They ran into the buzzsaw of the Warriors, and Clay dropping, I think it was 11 threes in that game,
Mm-hmm.
in game 6 to be able to take it to game 7. And then once they went to game 7, it was a
You don't
wrap.
think the Suns will?
No,
No,
I don't think KD will ever win a championship unless he goes back to the Warriors.
no.
I just don't. I mean, I respect his game. I think his game. I wasn't happy with the way that the Warriors went when KD went to the Warriors
Mm-hmm.
because it was stop ball. If you look at the humility that Steph showed, Draymond showed, and Clay showed, that they allowed someone on the team that literally stopped the flow of the game.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at the years before, they were power in numbers, right? And they were constantly cutting, moving. They were
Mm-hmm.
team basketball.
Mm-hmm.
When KD came, it became like literally like Steph stepped back in his role to allow KD, which is I think
Right,
is a big thing.
right.
So
And I think now that he's with the Suns, is it Aiton? Is he the guy that's their big man out there now? In
no,
Phoenix?
he's gone.
Is he? I
Uh,
don't know who it is, but you got Booker, Book or
yeah,
whatever, and
you got
KD.
Beal.
Yeah, Beal. Yeah, and he's probably playing. KD's probably the go to right now. They're probably leaning on him to
Yeah,
carry it.
and they're doo-doo this
Yeah, I
year.
don't think they're gonna do as well.
Yeah. I hope the
When
Warriors
did you
can.
become a Warriors? I didn't know you were such a big Warriors fan.
I became a Warriors fan the year before, like right as they started to refer to them as the Splash Brothers. So it was
Oh, okay.
Mark Jackson
So
time.
it's not the TNC days.
No, it
No.
was after that. It was right when Steph came into the league,
Mhm.
and him and Clay, they just started to refer to them as the
What
as
about,
the
what
Splash
about
Brothers.
Chris Mullin? That dude was a
Oh,
dog.
he was a dog.
That dude was.
He was amazing. I wasn't. I mean, and for me at that time, I was a Houston Rockets fan because I was all Houston fan.
Yeah. When you get a chance, speaking of Houston Rockets, I'd say that go watch some of the Pivot. Is it the Pivot? No, Up in Smoke. All the Smoke with
Oh yeah.
with Steven Jackson and Barnes,
Okay, yeah.
and go watch the Vernon Maxwell
Okay.
clips. That they're pretty
Yes.
good. They're pretty.
I
They're pretty
loved.
good.
I mean, I loved them back in the day when
Mhm.
it was the James Harden time. I wasn't a fan.
Yeah.
But I started being a fan then, and it was because I just love Steph's game. I
Mhm.
watched him at Davidson during the tournament with all
Mhm.
the guys,
Mhm.
and then I called Will. I started to really tune into them,
Mhm.
and I called Will and I was like, "Hey man, do you think that you would want to go to a playoff game?" And he's like, "Let me check the logistics," which meant that he had to check with Danya at the time. And
Shout out.
yeah, shout out there. And he said, "Well, I got to check and see." I said, "Don't worry about it. I got it." Because we used to talk about someday, we'll be able to go to professional games and, someday.
Mhm.
And that someday I had the means to be able to make it happen.
Mhm.
And I booked the tickets right then, and it was for game 5. It was a contingent, but it was the Clippers against the Warriors. And so Will and I went, and we were 14 rows off of like center court,
No, nice.
and we got to go and have that experience. And it, like, I was already watching the Warriors before, but that experience of Will and I sitting
Mhm.
and watching as kids, like, we're from Lompoc, we're here, like, this is so amazing.
That's
That really
awesome.
solidified. And then, I'm an irrational fan, like the Titans.
Mhm.
I think that we're going to go 17-0 every year.
You do. I do hear that about
Yeah,
you.
I'm irrational.
It's all good.
you know,
We'll live this. We'll take
have you ever
to
heard of
the glory.
NFL math?
I think I have.
Yeah. So,
I follow that. You put that together usually every week, right?
yeah,
Every
NFL.
Sunday before the Oilers, or not the Oilers. The
Well,
Titans.
NFL math just makes sense. You know what I mean? Because the way that I think about it is, if you were Mike Tyson, when he got beat by Buster Douglas, and Mike Tyson was a champ, then who became the champ?
Mhm.
Buster Douglas.
Mhm.
So Ryan Tannehill played against Tom Brady the last game that Tom Brady ever played as a Patriot,
Mhm.
and he beat him.
Where's Tanny at now?
Probably at Long's Drugs.
Longs. Good Lord. Yeah, that came
serving
off the tongue quick.
thrifty ice cream.
Thrifty ice
You
cream.
remember the scoop that
Frost
was
oh,
like it
yeah.
was almost square? It
Oh,
was
yeah.
almost
Oh,
square.
yeah.
Oh, it was what was it? Chocolate malted crunch?
Yep.
Yeah. He's
Mm,
serving that to people right now.
mm.
But because he beat him and Tom Brady was known as the GOAT, Tannehill's
Good.
obviously the GOAT.
Yeah.
And then because he was on the Titans, that makes the Titans the greatest team in the history of the NFL. So, I mean, that's how NFL math works.
I remember watching Tannehill at the Independence Bowl as a wide receiver playing for the
Oh my
Texas
gosh.
A&M Aggies. And they're like, "Hey, he's gonna be a quarterback." I was like, "What?"
No, I mean, I'm just irrational. I hope
That is pretty irrational.
it's very irrational.
Not as irrational as being a Saints fan, but it's all good.
Oh man, you guys shouldn't have.
We
You,
should.
well, you got Carr. The Raiders shouldn't have got rid of him.
Spencer Rattler's gonna take us to the glory.
Okay.
I don't know what's gonna happen, bro.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. I have no clue. We just re-signed Carr, to be honest with you.
Okay.
So
I like Carr.
and it's gonna
He's
be
a good dude.
down year.
It's a good dude.
Yeah.
Good dude. You need to bring Drew Brees out of retirement. Bring him back.
I don't know what's gonna happen.
That's a tough one.
Maybe we trade down and go get Cam Ford or Shador.
Do you think Cam Ward is going to translate? I don't think so.
I don't.
It's not a popular one, but
I think Jackson Dart may be,
yeah.
but they have him deep in the draft.
We got the number 1 pick, and nobody is talking about the Titans right now. Nobody.
Y'all have the number 1 pick right now?
We got the number 1 pick. Oh,
What is it?
let me see. I got to pick up my daughter.
No worries.
Do you want to go with me to pick up my daughter?
Right.
All right. So, oh, she's staying for a little bit, so we got some time.
Okay.
Cool. Let's see. We got the number 1 pick.
I don't. Who's your? It is Levis, right? Isn't he your guy right now?
Yeah.
Who's the backup now?
Will Levis.
Who's
Mason Rudolph went
Rudolph.
back to the Steelers.
went back to the Steelers? Yep.
Yeah.
I saw that.
We
He's just gonna throw your helmet at
Yeah.
somebody's face.
yeah. We're doo doo. We're
that whole losing what's his name?
AJ.
Who?
AJ Brown.
Him and your runner. What was
Derrick Henry.
Derrick Henry. I can't think
So
of his
why
name.
is it that when a person leaves the Titans, they become an all pro in someplace else?
Well, because Baltimore was legit. They were legit before Henry got there.
Do you think that Lamar Jackson will ever win a Super Bowl?
I do.
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
No.
God, he's good.
He's good.
I love him on my fantasy.
Yeah. I mean, on fantasy, he's amazing, but I don't think that he'll ever. I don't see it.
Yeah.
I don't see it happening.
He's good.
He's good, but I just don't like the Baltimore Ravens because they're a rival
Yeah.
of ours.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Ours. That's because I'm part
Because
of the team.
you got stakeholders.
Yeah. I
Scallions
should.
in the box.
I should, man. I did. I got a chance to sit down with Eddie George.
Yeah, I saw
was-
that. That was
dude,
pretty.
that was so cool. man.
That's
But I
awesome.
didn't have my equipment. That was the thing. The lesson is that when opportunity strikes, you're not always going to have the perfect scenario. So I didn't have my studio.
That's cool. You got to meet him though.
It was awesome. Kevin Dyson.
Yeah.
Got to meet Kevin Dyson.
Who have I met in football?
I got to interview Brad Johnson,
Oh, that's cool, man.
quarterback Brad
Yeah,
Johnson.
his son was at LSU for a minute.
Yeah.
And he got hurt. He went to A&M, got hurt.
It's a good dude.
And I think he's done. I
Really?
think he tore his knee completely.
Yeah, he's having a tough time.
Brad's a good dude, man. He got a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Yeah, with Tampa. No, not Tampa.
Yeah,
Is
with
it Tampa?
Tampa.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, and he gave advice to Maddox about being a quarterback.
Oh, nice.
So that's the cool thing too. That's been a lot of fun because getting a chance to be able to do that for the kids and have things.
Do they know who them guys are?
No,
They probably know who Eddie George is. Probably talk about.
I talk about
in
him.
your sleep.
I know exactly.
Yeah.
I think that.
Dude, he was a dog at Ohio State.
Oh, he was amazing.
I love watching.
He averaged over 5 yards a carry for his college career.
You know who?
5 yards a carry.
You know who? And I could be wrong about this, and it may have changed, but I remember. You know who led the NFL in yards per carry during the 5 years he was in the NFL? Napoleon.
Really?
I think I read that somewhere. He led the NFL during his tenure, average per, and he was like 5.7 or something like that.
Oh my gosh.
But yeah.
He was a dog.
Oh, it was,
was a dog.
stupid.
Yeah.
He was on another level, bro.
Oh yeah.
And like someone like Nip, where he was he going out getting extra training? You know
No.
what I mean? Like,
No.
I see these days I go out and watch these guys train and stuff like, I'm out there, the kids on our high school team, I mean, their dads are NFL players.
Yeah.
Our starting wide receiver, his dad is Jermichael Finley.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Jack goes out and trains with him at his house. And his son, Caden, is one of the top receivers in the state right now.
Wow.
Chris Johnson's son just left last year.
CJ 2K?
Chris Johnson, no, not the running back, the cornerback for Baltimore,
Oh, got it,
who
got it,
won the
got it.
championship
Yeah.
with Ed Reed and those guys.
Okay.
His son just left.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we got some there's some dogs over
That's
at that
wild,
school.
man.
But yeah, just to see those guys in the stands, watching their kids play,
Yeah.
Michael's pretty cool, down to earth cat.
Yeah.
Yeah, played Packers forever, and he got something messed up in his neck.
Isn't it cool how from our upbringing,
Mhm.
we have the ability to be able to transcend because we don't look at people as what they did. We're
Oh,
just you're just able to connect with them.
that's what's kind of cool. Going back to Alito, it's kind of cool. I go to I take a little time to myself sometimes. I'll take Jack to school in the morning, and I'll go to this diner by my house, and I'll just sit there and watch the train go by and eat breakfast, get my mind together for the day. And Jermichael will come in and he'll text me, "Hey, you at the spot?" And I'm like, "Yeah." Come over and we'll just shoot the crap about football.
That's awesome, man.
Nothing, just him as a person.
Yeah.
He played at UT when he was at college.
Mhm.
Um, but he'll just come in there because he does the same thing. He's got to drop his kids off at school
Yeah.
because he's got 5 boys. And a couple of them are around Jack's age, either
Wow.
either a little bit older or a little bit younger. But he'll go over there. Hey, you eating breakfast? And we'll shoot the stuff.
Yeah.
And like he just he puts the drawers on the same we did. But he's this 6'5",
Yeah.
massive black dude that looks like
Yeah.
he could still like go out there and throw guys around. But no, he's just down to earth cat, man. And
Yeah.
he does a lot of podcasts, a lot of stuff for the
Oh,
community
that's
out
cool.
there, and just a good.
What do you wish our friends knew? Like, uh,
Hmm.
whether it be about you or our friendships? Because it's not like I even wanted to. I would love to do this. I don't think I could get them to do it.
Mhm.
But when we spend time together, I think that it would be really healthy for us to be able to sit down, even though it would come through jokes and banter and all the stuff that we actually like let the other people know about how much we love them or that we are inspired by them. Does
I
that make
I
sense?
I think that's a great idea. I think you get us in a
I would
in a
want
room
it.
like this, like these chairs that are lined up in kind of a jury type situation where you start shooting the questions like we are now, and I think the people see,
Yeah.
with all the bantering and the stories and the laughter and the tears and you know,
It would be honestly, it's a dream of mine to I don't wanna wrangle them in, but to have, have 6 chairs in here, 7 chairs in here, and have
mhm.
all the guys and sit down. We did it over, the phone.
I think I saw that when you do your call-in deal.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's hard,
Yeah, it's hard. It's tough
a lot of
because,
background and
well, a lot of people don't answer their phone now
mhm,
because I have a show that's called You Have to Meet My Friends where I just
right,
go live and
right.
randomly call
Like
people.
you did this to me today.
Yeah,
Randomly
exactly.
sit your
So
ass
just sit
down.
your
I'm
ass
gonna talk
down,
to you.
like, yeah,
Yeah,
that we'll be able to do that. But I just think,
appreciate that.
like, what do you, I mean, if you had that, because our time, right, back nine kind of scenario, we
Mhm,
look at it just numbers wise,
mhm.
right? We're 50 years old. Unless we live to 120, we're on the back nine.
Did you
Um,
see DeAndre's text? It kinda took me back. You
what?
remember his text
No.
when you guys were hanging out, and it kinda made you think, right? DeAndre said, "We got about 20 more of these together."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh," and it kinda choked me up because I'm like, "Damn, I hate that I missed this now. I should have made a." My effort was there. I told Jansen, I said, "Look, man, I'm getting tickets." I
Yeah.
didn't know, we were going to Florida. I
Yeah.
kinda knew about spring break, but I was gonna make it back in time,
Yeah.
but they already got the house, of course, I'm not gonna make excuses, what they are, what it is, what it is. But and when he said that, it kinda just you take a gulp, be like,
Yeah. I mean, to
and I
it,
was like,
it was a, it
we
was a
got 20
gravity.
more, DeAndre. We gotta do more.
Yeah. It was a gravity moment for me too. So what
Mm.
would you want the crew to know?
That yeah, I mean, hell, we said a lot here, right? A lot of stuff I've never came up open up about. That I want to be more in the light with you guys. I want us to be more. we have something to share and give, man. And I want people, I guess, people to see that and share that as well. Some of us have own personal stuff going on. I get it, but there's going to be Father Time is a bee, and we have to cherish this time, and I'm glad I picked up the phone and said, "Hey, dude, you're gonna be in town, uh, I'm gonna come over and hang out and have some tacos, somewhere. I hope."
Oh
But
yeah,
it's I think it's to share that with everybody, our stories,
yeah,
whether how stupid or hilarious or silly or straightforward and upfront and blunt, we can be, to share that experience. And a lot of people don't, maybe they see it and take it and run with it, and maybe they go, "Hey, we want to be like that." Not that we're trying to be better than anybody, but just, hey, this is our story, and take what you want from it. You
yeah,
know, it made us who we are, man. It really did. It made us who we've become. What journey or path or part of the onion we peeled back to get to where we were. I never thought I'd be doing this for 30 years. With the government still. Goes back to, we never thought Kelly cut hair, and here he is sitting in front of us with dreads to this day. Because it's funny when I explain in Kelly, oh, the dude with the dreads, yeah, he's got more to his menu than just dreads, guys. Because all of our friends have more to think.
yeah,
It's Ike and what he's doing, Jansen, Will, everybody. Um, I think we have something to offer, man. Even at
hmm
50.
yeah.
Yeah. I think it's pretty dope, man.
I think it's amazing. That's I I just about brought all the equipment. The
Mhm.
next time we all come
Mhm.
together, I'm gonna bring all the equipment and I'm gonna force it, even if it's over drinks, and I don't care what drinks or smoke or whatever it is. That it's that it's conversations and we can capture it because like my our last time when we went to the taco stand, it meant a lot to me. I
You know what I
mean,
mean?
it,
Oh
it
yeah.
was it was awesome just to be able to sit and chat, and now we have the median where I mean, literally, like your kids will be able to see this.
Absolutely.
You know
And
what I'm saying?
I don't want to be a time where something bad happens in our lives
Mm-mm.
that we get together.
And that's a lot of times when it is,
And I
man.
don't and I don't want it to be like that. I get it, life happens.
Yeah,
It does. We're only here for so long, this
yeah,
a little bit of time. And I don't want it to be like that. I tell Sarah all the time, I say, I gotta get back. I gotta get back,
yeah,
because you guys are part of my life. That's how it is.
yeah.
Big part of my life.
Can't get rid of us.
No, I'm
Can't get
not.
rid of us.
I'm not, and sometimes I'm distant just because, I'm gone so much, man.
Yeah.
And I don't want to, I feel like I'm not really burdened, but I'm like, you guys don't want to hear what I'm doing. You know, I'm out fishing in Cuba. That's what I'm doing.
No, we want to know
It's
it,
what I
man.
do.
No, it's
You know,
cool.
you know, I,
It's
I love it. When I'm out there and, I get to do my thing, I just don't talk about it a lot because it's not really, it's not hair raising. You know what I mean? It's just doing my job. And, that's the stuff I like to do. You
yeah,
know, it's, uh, it's, um, It's made me, man.
yeah. What advice would you have for Maddox and McKenna? And if you could look into that camera and
That
use both
camera?
their names, and it's Uncle Johnny. It's so funny because I called my Uncle JB got to come to McKenna's performance,
Oh, yeah?
and she comes walking out. She hadn't seen Uncle JB in a long time.
Where
We were
does
out in
JB live now?
in Phoenix,
Oh, okay.
and he made the trek, man. He lives about 45 minutes away, and he brought his son, and we just chopped it up for a little bit. And my daughter walks out with her boyfriend. And I was like, McKenna, this is Uncle JB, and she was like, Daddy, it's kind of strange sometimes because you introduced me to uncles that I've never met before. I'm like, girl, that's how it is. Like, this is your uncle,
Mm,
and I joked with her boyfriend. I was like, Uncle JB's here, and you go acting up, Uncle JB's gonna get a call.
mhm.
And then Jay is sitting there and he's like, looking at me like, yep, yep, I'll show, you know. Um, but um, if you could use both their names and call yourself Uncle Johnny, it would be awesome.
Maddox, McKenna, I think, learning everything that you probably haven't heard about your dad, you take it in strides, sometimes you don't have to learn the hard way, like he did. And that's comes with trial and error, he got to where he did because of that, um, stand out in front of everybody, be who you are. Don't be afraid to be who you are. Be you. Um, and I think everything's gonna come to him. I think everything's gonna come to y'all.
What about to Jack and, to Brooklyn and Savannah and to Nick?
Um, Nick is a warrior, man. He's his own. He's. I'm just so proud of him. You know, he came to me and he's like, "Dad, I don't want to go to college." So you don't have to. What are you gonna do? And he goes, "I don't know." And at 17 years old, he started kicking boxes at UPS. Been there 13 years and runs the show.
Awesome.
I can't say enough about that about him. My girls, absolute princess warriors. They don't. They're just like their mom. They don't take no shit. They're different. They're southern born, southern raised. And they're strong and tough. Um, and I'm so proud of how far they have come. Straight A students. Getting accepted to these major universities. And just pursuing what they want to do. And that was always a goal for me and Sarah. Right? Is to we did everything we were supposed to do, and we got to have enough, trust in the process,
Yeah,
for them to go out into the world and be, a product, a productive product of this society. And even at the young age, they just done amazing. They've done just great work, and they're gonna go on and do great stuff. Savannah's almost a junior, will be a junior, going into her CRNA program as a
yeah,
pediatric anesthesiologist. Brooklyn's starting her BSN program at Louisiana Tech next year. Of course, we'll still have Jack with us. He's 13, but Jack is the baby, so he gets handled a little bit differently. I can admit, and it's my fault. But he is he is very strong on the outside and sensitive on the inside. A lot like his dad. You know, he's he's an athlete, way better athlete than I ever was. Um, But I think he's the environment he's in. I think is just I think going to be a greater product later. He's got so much out there for him. But he's done great things even at such a young age. It's fun to watch them all grow, and they're all separate. All of them are different. All four of them are different.
yeah,
But doing their own thing, and I don't know what Jack's going to do. With the girls, it was kind of, they're older, right? But we kind of knew, once they got into high school, like, okay, Sarah's background is medical, her whole family is medical and doctors and nurses. And so the girls saw that growing up. So it was an easier, I don't want to say path, but an easier kind of, this is what I think I want to do.
yeah,
Jack, I don't know. Jack might go in the military.
yeah,
Jack, Sarah's always said it. He's going to be a coach. He's the type of kid that he learns differently than a lot of others. Because we haven't really put it down with. I think he may have a learning disability. It doesn't stop him when he's doing. But it's funny when you watch him do plays. These kids have them on their arms and stuff when we play Madden, right? What do we see in Madden? We go and pick a play right on the TV
yeah.
monitor. That dude's got it here. He,
Wow.
I mean, like that. And when he's playing, he can hear the play, or he can see the play, or I'm sorry, he could hear the play from the coach. Hey, you're gonna go run this route, or here's your play route, and then he sees the route, and then he's on it.
Really?
I mean, he's just and he's got it. I mean, it clicks for him. I don't know how he registers the learning different than a lot of people, and
Yeah,
he may not be the most athletic kid on the team. There's other kids that are older than him. That's what Texas does. They
yeah,
hold people back. Jackson's still a legit 13-year-old. But I think how he learns in his techniques, is gonna better his game across whether it's basketball or football. But the way he learns, plays, and processes that stuff is way different than what we used to.
yeah.
I'm like, how did you know that? And he'll come home, he'll start drawing up plays on
Really?
pieces of paper. And he's, let's go try this. And he'll line up X's and O's and, hey, let's run drag routes. The guard's going to pull here. And he does all that. He knows all that. And a lot of it comes from Madden.
Really?
How when the plays come up, you
Yeah,
see
yeah, yeah.
the dives, you see
Mhm.
the stretch plays, you see the zigs, the zags, you see the
Yeah,
waggles. He
yeah.
sees that, brings it, and he could put it on the field. And
Wow.
then the coaches bring it and say, they bring, of course they have their own system, and he just picks it up, man. He knows it. Now we just got to get him bigger, got to get him to hit puberty.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I know Maddox is Hasn't hit the growth spurt yet.
No,
It's on.
him and I didn't know Maddox was the same age as
Yeah,
Jack. And
he's
looking at
actually.
Maddox, they're about the same size.
Yeah,
And Jack hasn't hit it either.
yeah.
But he is brick strong.
Uh-huh.
I think we were at the gym the other day, and I can't recall when I was 13 how much we were squatting. I don't even remember squatting at 13. Do you? You know what I mean? But we're at
I don't remember going to the gym.
You
at
know what I
13
mean? He
years
said,
old.
"Dad, let's go to Fortified. It's the gym right outside by our house." I said, "Let's go." Again, I'm not going to pass on something he wants. If he wants it, we're going to do it. I'm not going to drag you because I want you to do it.
Yeah.
But he goes, "Dad, let's go lift." I said, "Cool, let's go." And he's in there squatting 175 as a 13-year-old.
Really?
No shit. I said, "Are you doing this at school?" He goes, "Yeah, Dad." They call them PRs now, or what?
Personal record?
Personal record.
Yeah,
Yeah.
personal
We
record,
used to
yeah.
call them what? Max.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
max
max out.
out.
you
Max
know?
out. That's all
Right.
we would want to do.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm like, what the hell's PR? You gotta. I don't know what that. Anyway, he was telling me, and I was like, "Oh, okay, cool." He goes in there, and he goes, "Dad, put him on the rack." We go into this room, and he putting the weights on the collars and everything, and
that's awesome.
he's rapping
man.
one. And he didn't rap it. He goes, "Dad, I'm gonna try to do my PR."
PR. Yeah.
I said, "Okay, we want to start with." He goes, "Hey, we'll start with 150." Oh, okay, so he squatted 3 or 4 times 150. I was like, "Well, dang, Jack, how much can you max?" And he goes, "I don't know. Let's start doing." He got up to 175 and squatted. I was like,
Wow.
"Wow." But yeah, he's a strong kid.
Yeah.
Strong kid.
Yeah.
Core is weak, but he's strong.
Yeah.
He's gonna be fine. He'll be fine. But no, he's gonna be good, man.
Wow. Dude, I thank you so much. And I did surprise you.
You did.
Sitting you down here. But
You know what you were doing.
But I like that. I like that part of it. I actually got a chance to be able to. I got my pop one time.
Mhm.
It was the only time I got him on the podcast.
Mhm.
I didn't get. I got the making of pops. I didn't get the second half.
Mhm.
I wish I would have. And when I think of that, like the just capturing the moments.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? Like and seizing the moment. And not waiting. And that's why I just want to tell you how much I appreciate you like coming up here. I will get you tacos. I promise you.
All good.
I'm going to get you some tacos.
Yeah, I'm tired of
Um,
Tex-Mex in Texas, bro.
Yeah. Yeah. We're going to get you some tacos. But also to just, dude, 40 years of friendship. There's very few people that can say that part.
To this day, bro.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, you were one of the first people that I met when I moved to.
You're on the east side base housing, right?
Yeah, 1109 Cottonwood, baby.
Yeah, I was on
But
214 Jacaranda.
You had moved to the
Wisteria Lane. Off
the
base.
trailer park.
Uh-huh.
That's when you started going to Los Padres, or did you go to Los Padres at Jacaranda?
No, I went to Los Padres the whole time. Whole time.
It's actually
Kindergarten to Cabrillo in 12th grade.
it's called something else now.
I have no idea.
It's Los Padres is called something else. It's the only thing that's there. It looks like the apocalypse happened on the offside of base where we were 1109 got
Los Padres and
and VMS is still there.
was it
Martha
Maple?
Nagus. Maple
Maple?
was there. Yeah,
That's-
Martha
that's
Nagus.
where,
Yeah.
Yeah. Jansen and Johnson did their business.
Yeah.
Repelled.
we were talking about that, and it was funny to see Alfred get uncomfortable.
You need to get Alfred on here.
I know, dude. Well, I want to have Alfred and Will together because Alfred comes out even more when Will is there. But
Has Will been on here?
I've had him on virtually.
Yeah.
We've talked, but I want to get him in studio, and I just like for me, it's a big thing to be able to have all of you guys, and I want to have all of you individually, but then I want to have all of us together, which will be
Where would we do that? Back home in Cali?
we
Or
can.
Lompoc?
I'd like that. I mean, we could do it here. It would be a madhouse. Like it would be. I think it would be the highest rated show.
I think we just need to make, if we're gonna get together, are we trying to do the thing again next year?
Okay, so August is
Is the
Cabrillo.
golf thing, right?
Yeah. So that I'm doing one here at the end of May, Fiesta del Sol. So
It just has to be a time where everyone's gonna say, "Yeah, let's meet here," and then we just dedicate a couple hours to the
Sit
house,
down.
to the
Yeah.
studio,
Yep.
and
It's easy.
then we just go about our business like we
Because
normally
I got
would.
all the stuff, so I mean it works out. But let's go get you some tacos.
Whatever you want to do, bro.
Sound good?
I leave like early in the morning, so
Okay, cool. So we'll get you some tacos. I want to tell you I appreciate you.
thanks for having me.
There was never any commercials because we don't need commercials on this. There's
Do
no
you edit
intro.
this?
Oh no! I mean, we go
Straight up, huh?
we go raw dog.
Saturday Night
We
Live
go we
cuss.
go we go commando.
Surely we got stories about that.
Yeah. That's that's where we end.
I
But
don't.
I tell you,
Yeah.
Johnny Reagan is his name. Johnny Reagan. Look him up online. Check him on LinkedIn. He'll be a lot different on LinkedIn.
Google me.
Yes, there we go. Love you, buddy.
Love you too, man.